Still there.
How's the running game?
So apparently, the NCAA,
I hear they want
North Carolina high
people to
school
move out there,
rules
they're
says you
losing
can't move the game until the day of the game. So we couldn't move it to Saturday today according to their rules.
So how did?
Are moving it, you couldn't move it, that way. I think you can move it that way. Move,
My
yeah.
family didn't want me to leave. I
So,
don't know.
Yeah,
Somebody at the school was making rules, I say.
well, y'all probably don't see each other very often,
yeah.
We have not seen her since COVID.
really.
Hey,
Yeah,
good, how you doing?
that's a long time.
No legal questions tonight.
Hey, boy, I took a job with Rockingham County, working in the courtroom. Man, I tell you what. Hey, them people ain't got, they ain't got a pop piss.
Thank you. You're good at it.
Everybody got no money. Everybody's got pending court matters and other days. This damn thing I've ever seen.
I can handle a little more.
Everybody's religiously, every day we have at least 2 people in the courtroom on meth or heroin.
For the most
'Cause they're
part.
sitting there.
For the most part.
and all this shit. We're locked
I
one up
basically
today
have a
for,
computer plugged up, and I hope I don't ever have to turn
violating
it on.
her, probation
Right now,
for, not 2
right now,
years, she
waiting on the
ain't seen the
account.
guy or anything.
But he can't finish anything.
She ain't paid
It'll
child
still be
support.
open
She's
till
done, think about that, she's got child support.
Yeah.
We gotta
And,
close out 2022, which will not end until March.
60 days active.
But,
I'll tell you, they don't play up
no
there, man.
support staff at all.
Well,
It's
at
just
least every day we take at least 1
hoping
or
that
2 in
it
custody.
slides right on through.
And before he sends
Hope the government doesn't get too much.
120 days.
You district?
That's not
District
true.
right now.
They're gonna get more than their share. More than their
Had
share.
a, Superior, we had a murder trial last week, 3 guys, 3 teenagers. They finally played it out on Friday.
Mm-hmm.
But the bad thing was,
Who's judge?
They ain't give me no card to speak.
Wood, I believe.
Out of Winston?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
I won't let them talk.
Oh,
If anybody is going to speak this evening, if you would, fill out one of the little pieces of paper that we have in the lobby, or, Robbie, do you have them?
Yeah, well, they're actually right there on the podium as well.
If you would fill one out, Ed, you don't need to.
Hey, why is our,
But if anybody's gonna speak tonight, if you would fill one of those out and give it to our, you wanna speak on something else, you're more than welcome. We won't stop you. I tell you, from the invocation, just keep going.
I might take an offering, better watch out.
Well, good luck.
And they'd get a chicken bucket. Good story behind that one. I had a
I got 7 o'clock. Let's call this to order. First, our Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Amen. Pastor Ed, would you do our invocation?
This prayer is in reflection on Election Day. Let us pray. Sovereign Lord, how foolish we are, believing that we can rule ourselves by electing a council person, a mayor, a representative, a senator, or president to rule over us. Last Tuesday, we were at it again, and in some places, we are still counting the votes. Grant us humility so we may not think of ourselves more highly than we ought to think. May we be reasonable, since God has measured out a portion of faith to each of us. Give us and those we elect enough wisdom to acknowledge our follies. Help us laugh at our own pridefulness, for without humor, our politics cannot be humane. A sense of humor tempers our desire to dominate. Free us, dear Lord, from our fears, our prejudices, and our hate. May we listen intently to whom we disagree. May we first seek to understand rather than to be understood. For as St. Francis observed, for it is in giving that we receive. It is in pardoning that we are pardoned. and it is in dying that we are born to eternal life. Amen.
Amen. Let me take just a minute. I'm going to ask for a minute of silence. It's sometimes some terrible things happen. They don't always affect us individually, but they affect our community. And we had one of those this past Halloween. Leah Thornbill, her life was cut very short. I can't imagine outliving a child or a grandchild. So if you would, let's observe a moment of silence for Aaliyah. Thank you all. I move that we adopt the agenda. Motion, we adopt the agenda?
Mr. Mayor, I have an addition, please.
Certainly.
I need to add, I prefer this to go, let's see, at the end of the meeting, after citizens' comments, I believe the council needs to go into closed session to, under General Statute 143.318.11 for attorney-client privilege, and also to instruct the public body staff or negotiating agents concerning the potential position to be taken on behalf of the public body in terms of acquisition of real property.
So done. Is there any further discussion?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I'd also like to make an addition. We have email quotes from Hall Plumbing dated November the 9th, 2022. And I'd like to have a discussion about those, and I think it would be appropriate to put this discussion with item number 7 under new business, or either added as 7B.
That's good. That's done. Any objection?
And then also, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to add a discussion about some website updates I'm interested in having council discuss. That can be at the end of the meeting. I have no objection.
16B
Let's do 14B.
through 14B.
Mr. Wagner, would you close those doors?
Absolutely.
I withdraw my first motion and I submit a second motion to adopt the agenda.
I'll second.
Jim?
Aye.
Derek?
Aye.
Jimmy?
Aye.
Tim?
Aye.
And I am aye. I believe our Chief Galden is going to give us our safety report.
Good evening, Council.
Good evening.
Good evening, Chief.
So let's go through the month of October. For the month of October, we had a total of 96 calls. Our breakdown for October were 46 medical, 36 fire-related, excuse me, and 14 fire-related and 36 of the other variety. Those with good intent calls, those type things. Nothing major, thank goodness, knock on wood. Our message for the month is, and actually this comes from the Forestry Service in one of our meetings. They remind us every year that we are in the second fire season, and not a lot of people think about it being 2 fire seasons in this part of the state. You really think about it in the mountains and you think about it down east, but look how many leaves are falling off the trees and all. It's cooler, so the humidity's not as high, not as much moisture. So they remind us that we're now in our second fire season. So we just remind everybody, if you're burning leaves, make sure you clear out around your piles that you burn. Obviously, the smaller the pile, the better you are. If it does start to get out of control, you can control it a whole lot easier. If you can burn where you can take a garden hose or something with you, that's always the preferred tool to have out there with you. But just be mindful. It is very dry, even though it seems like we've had a lot of rain. Like I say, when you don't have a lot of humidity, it doesn't take long for it to dry everything out. And if you do burn, please be careful. Thank you, guys. Have a good evening.
Thank you, sir. You too. Administrative reports, our Deputy Clerk, Robbie Wagner.
Okay, for November 22 administrative report, I want to say thank you to Ms. Martin and Ms. Hunsucker for helping me create this list. So we had 7 new water meters installed, 11 applications for transfer of service, 42 water meters and applications are on hold for builders. 16 work orders were prepared. We had 40 811 reports and 720 water bills were sent out. Town staff attended a virtual public records management workshop earlier in the month. The North Carolina League annual salary survey was submitted. The HubSco report was submitted. The current cleaning service will expire at the end of this month, and the town staff has been researching for a new cleaning service at the town hall and at the town park. The renewal of the permit to operate a community public water system has been completed. Yates Construction Company repaired an emergency water leak at the southwest corner of the intersection of NC Highway 68 North and Hall River Road. And just want to say thank you to Yates for getting a crew together to work on that. The 2 HVAC systems have been installed by Stokesdale Heating and Air today. Been walking around all morning. Guilford County Locksmith repaired some file cabinets here inside of Town Hall and also repaired some locks into the bathroom at the town park, so thank you to them for that. The Christmas banners have officially been installed by Price Mill Towing, and just a reminder that I'll be out of Town Hall next week on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday to attend the New Clerks Institute and the Master Clerks Academy in Raleigh, and both of those are offered by the School of Government.
Excellent. Good.
And that's it.
Excellent, excellent. Is there anyone here from the planning board? No? Events committee?
I just want to, reiterate that the parade is Saturday, December the 10th, 2 p.m. downtown. Look forward to that. It's a great event every year. In fact, I don't know if y'all are familiar with Our State Magazine. Both my wife and I love it. It's a nice little magazine. They're actually going to do a feature on our parade in the upcoming holiday issue. It's currently in print right now. So they're doing a feature on parades throughout the state of North Carolina. I think Fayetteville, Morehead City, Beaufort, Highlands, Gastonia, and little old Stokesdale will be in that. So that should be nice. We do have a great parade, and our citizens and businesses and churches and schools are make it so great. So look forward to that.
Have you divulged our grand marshal yet?
No, I haven't even thought about it, to be honest with you.
Oh, okay. Property committee? Mr. Landreth, I don't want to leave you out this time.
No, I don't have anything.
Mr. Rigsby? Nothing?
The only thing, we're kind of in the initial phase of trying to find a cleaning contractor or a solution to the vacancy that's coming up. I did reach out to a service today in Madison, and I've got a contact information. I just need to send them some specs. But that's about all we've got on the property committee right now.
Town Park Improvement Committee?
Mr. Mayor, Town Park Improvement Committee Chairman T is here, and he has his own agenda item later in the meeting.
Later in the meeting? Mm-hmm. Very good. Ms. Thacker, financials?
When we do the,
Do it at the end.
no, wait a minute.
It's in the new business, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so.
That's where we'll put it. We'll put it in the new business. Ms. Thacker?
Yes. Good evening. Okay.
Good evening.
Good evening.
We will start with the general fund. And this is for as of October 31st, 2022. In the ARPA funds, we have $723,965. The Bank of Oak Ridge, the money market, we have $23,314.99. Our total CDARS in the Bank of Oak Ridge totaled $2,562,629.40. Our checking account, we had $294,283.27. Petty cash is $150. Salaries and FICA, and this is Gary's salary, which is our ORC, the Operators and Responsible Charge, totaled $461.18. The total sales tax, this is total for the whole fiscal year, is $217.63. Our water enterprise reimbursement for the shared overhead expense for the month of October is $11,425.84. And that is for our general fund. I don't have any more notes on there, on that one. I will move to the water. I have a few notes on this one. Okay. Our Bank of Oak Ridge, CDARS total, $500,198.78. The Capital Reserve Fund, $186,490.17. The Fidelity checking is $625,497.48. With the North Carolina Capital Management Fund, we have $527,304.90. Our savings, we have $45,055.55. Our accounts receivables, I actually have as of November 10th and October 31st, but we'll do that one, the October 31st first. Prius gave me a copy of today as well. The active accounts that we have that are 90-plus days, there are 0 accounts. The inactive that are 90-plus days, there are a total of 27 accounts, and that totals $6,010.20. As of today, Prius gave this to me, we have two accounts that are 60 days past due. And on the inactive accounts, we still have the 27 accounts listed. And that totals now, as of today, is $6,117.51. And also on the accounts receivable, we have the sales tax refund. Fiscal year 23 so far is $270. And again, the water reimbursement that is due to the general fund is $11,425.84. And the payroll that is due, which is salaries, Gary's salary, again, is the operators and responsible charge over our water account, is $461.18. Our total water capacity fees that we received in the month of October was $1,500. And I did want to say, first, does anybody have any questions on the financials?
Can I just make a comment? We have recently renewed, our CDs, our investments in the bank.
Yes.
And those rates are between 2.25 and 2.75% annually, which is a significant increase of where they were.
That's right.
And that's a direct reflection, on the Fed raising interest rates. But why it's important, and I want a lot of people to know this, why that is important for all our small town with our small budget is my first year on council here, so that was just 3 years ago. The interest we received in our general fund, on the money in our general fund, represented 11.1% of our revenue. When the interest rates dropped, our interest was only 1.1% of our revenue. So anytime you have a revenue budget drop like that, is significant. So we should get back to that, 10% figure of our revenue. We probably won't see the full effect in FY '23, but hopefully going forward, that it's often overlooked, but that's a big component of our revenue stream, and it's important.
Right.
And I think you were going to say something about the audit. If you're not, I am.
I am.
Okay.
But if you would like,
No,
Okay.
you'll be a lot nicer.
okay. Yes. Just wanted to let everyone know that, the audit with, Rex Rouse, we actually did start. They started asking for some, information from me on Wednesday. I did meet with Rex Rouse this afternoon here in, Town Hall, and we did start the audit. He seems to be making, he made a lot of progress this week since he had started on it. And he said that so far, knock on wood, fingers crossed, the reports look great. He was very pleased with how I had presented everything to him to date. And he's thinking that everything should move along very quickly. He did tell me that, he does take the, audits first come, first serve per se, as far as when he receives the information. And he said every year that I've been here, I've always beat Stoneville, and he said Stoneville beat me by 3 days this year. So, and so he said he does take them as he receives them. So, but he did say that, even though the audit, is due October 31st, but the state does grant you a 30-day grace period. And, he said that, he definitely sees everything being done by the 30th of November, so.
Do you know, we're under contract, this is our last year under contract with Mr. Rouse. Do you know when the due date on the contract was?
October 31st? Yes, October 31st. I don't have it in front of me, but I think that is correct.
Okay.
Oh, you've got it, I'm sorry. That's okay. Yes, October 31st, excuse me.
Did they ask to extend the contract?
No, because the state allows the grace period.
On the contract? Mm-hmm. Okay. Is he gonna have it done in time for us to present it in our December meeting?
Yes, I feel that he will, yes.
Okay.
He said that everything looked, I don't want to jinx it, but he said everything looks really good as far as the record, how I presented everything. He was very pleased with how he's received everything from me so far. And he said it's been very few journals so far, which he was very happy with. So am I. Very happy.
We're happy about it too, so we'd like to hear about it.
Fingers crossed, yeah. But I think everything, did he say he was coming back tomorrow?
Tomorrow. So he won't be back, yeah.
But he's working on things from his office tomorrow.
Next week.
Yeah, but he did say he would be back next week, but he is working on things from his office because, I've actually got to email Jay tonight when we get finished, an answer that I have for him, so.
And that
So
was
he-
Jay's response.
Oh, yes, because Robbie did send out an email, per Mr. Jones's request. He did send out an email to Mr. Rouse and his firm. Do you want me to read the email that was sent to Mr. Rouse?
That would be fine.
Okay. Robbie sent this on Tuesday, November the 8th at 4:38, per Mr. Jones's request. Greetings, good afternoon. I hope this email finds you safe and well. Per the request of Councilman Tim Jones, I am emailing you today to inquire about the 2022 audit report for the town of Stokesdale, North Carolina. It is my understanding that R. Rex Rouse Jr. of Rouse, and Gardner, LLP, signed a contract to audit accounts for the town of Stokesdale on May 10th, 2022. This same contract was signed by Michael E. Crawford, mayor of the town of Stokesdale, on June 16th, 2022, and by Kimberly Thacker, finance budget officer of the town of Stokesdale, on June 17th, 2022. This contract also includes an audit fee in the amount of $9,000 and a writing financial statements fee in the amount of $5,555 that are both to be paid by the town of Stokesdale to Rouse, and Gardner LLP for their services. Could you please provide me with an update on the current status of the above-mentioned audit report for the town of Stokesdale? Also, the above-mentioned contract states that the audit due date is October 31st, 2022. At the time of this email, this due date occurred approximately 1 week ago. Therefore, I would also like if you could please confirm if the 2022 audit report for the town of Stokesdale will need to be extended. If so, does this extension need to be requested by the town of Stokesdale or by Rouse, and Gardner LLP? If possible, please provide me with a written answer to this inquiry by 4:30 p.m. on Thursday, November 10th, 2022. If provided, I will deliver your written response to the town of Stokesdale Town Council during the next regular town council meeting. This meeting is scheduled for Thursday, November 10th, 2022 at 7 p.m. If you need any further information from me, please do not hesitate to contact me using the contact information within my email signature below. I look forward to hearing from you soon. Thank you and have a great day. Robbie Lee Wagner II, Deputy Town Clerk. Jay, that works with Mr. Rouse, replied back the same day, November 8th, 2022, at 5:16 p.m. His response was directed to the Deputy Clerk, Robbie Wagner, and Kimberly Thacker. The Local Government Commission grants an automatic extension until December the 1st, 2022, before which time we shall have the audit completed. Thanks, Jay.
Is there any discussion?
I'd like to have that email attached to the minutes for this meeting and the response. If there's no objection from anybody.
We don't have anyone who's asked to speak, but as a courtesy, I will extend that to you. Does anyone want to address the council? These are public comments. We're going to move right along. This is new business. Consideration of a estimate submitted by Galden Plumbing for the materials, labor to install 2 Woodford model 17 faucets with stem lock. Work expected to cost between $1,000 and $1,250 plus North Carolina sales tax. I think everyone has a copy of that written estimate. Included with that we have an estimate from Hall Plumbing. It's Hall Well and Plumbing, agrees to install 1 Woodford Model 67 at the end of the concession stand wall for total estimated price of $1,047.20. 2, install 1 Woodford Model R34 2-inch, excuse me, 2.
It's a 2-foot bury.
Okay, 2-foot bury locking yard hydrant near the backflow for a total of estimated $1,325.26. 3, install a new backflow enclosure over the existing backflow for the total estimated price of $455.
And Mr. Mayor, number 4, council has already addressed with a previous motion. If you will recall.
Yes, I do. Okay. This price includes a certified time.
That's part of number 4. Where we're at here is number 5, Mr. Mayor.
Number 5, 2-hour labor only estimate to work on the drinking fountain issue, $236. Have you done the math on this to know the total?
No, not really, no. I would like to speak to this estimate. I didn't call Hall Plumbing to come down to the town hall complex here, but there was a question that was generated, and I was in the area, so I agreed to come down and meet with Mr. Hall and Mr. Wagner and go over these items. This question about hose bib started when we had to have our soccer field repaired because of the sinkhole, and then we needed water available to water the repair, and it's always been a sore spot with me that town spent $1 million on building this park on land we already owned, and we didn't get a hose bib. So I hope we will get this corrected one day. I don't see any point in being in a hurry about it, but anyhow, I met with Mr. Wagner and Mr. Hall, and we discussed the pros and cons of having a hose bib on the far end of the concession building and connecting a hose bib, or rather a yard hydrant, the yard hydrant being one that's independent and sticks out of the ground with a big handle on it that's lockable, over near the backflow preventer for the town's irrigation system in the park. And so we discussed those pros and cons back and forth, and I just ultimately said, well, why don't you just quote both of them, and council can take a look at that and discuss it further and make a decision. While we were looking at the area, we noticed that the enclosure for the backflow had been beat up pretty good with weed eaters and mowers, and was fairly worn and damaged. And so I was concerned that this was going to allow the plumbing in there to freeze, which is large and expensive. So that's why the estimate to replace the enclosure was generated. I asked him to quote one a little bit larger, since the one we have is very congested. And we already covered number 4 in a previous meeting. Number 5, Mr. Hall was kind enough to look at our water fountain in the park while he was available. Mr. Wagner, the man of the day, had the proper tool to remove the cover. So Mr. Hall took a look at it and fixed one of the fountains while we were there. It was clogged, and we had some discussion about it. This thing has solenoids on it that are operated, that are air operated. It actually turns off and on, in the enclosure. So it has been problematic to maintain from time to time. So it's still not working up to par. The dog watering spigot's not working. And so what I suggested we do is get an estimate from them to examine it and check it check all the functions and check it for any required maintenance. And that is where this number for 2 hours is coming from, that he has listed on the estimate here. Now, as for the estimate from Golden Plumbing, Mr. Mayor, I think you met a representative of Golden Plumbing down there to discuss that.
I did. And the faucets that are being quoted are quite a bit different. Golden is quoting a faucet you might have at your home.
A Waterford Model 17.
If I'm not mistaken, the Hall faucet is, the one on the building is flush to the building, am I correct?
Yes, it is a commercial tamper-proof faucet that requires a special key to turn the water on.
The Golden bid does include locking devices. And what we did there was I got him to give us a price on faucets on either side of the restroom building. We had one on the men's side, one on the ladies' side. The real problem we had with the irrigating that we had to do for the damage was you had to go into the concession stand. You had to leave the concession stand open so that the hose could run through. So to Tim's point, it's not pressing, but again, it's not a situation I think we ought to just put off indefinitely. This is not, although Hall's is probably the more expensive. I've got a total, if I'm correct, I've got a total of over $3,000 for theirs. But in my mind, I think either one would probably work.
So I just have one question. So we I guess a few, 10 years ago, this complex was built and there was no spigot?
Not outside there.
All right, do y'all have a motion?
Well, I would like to make a motion, and I'd rather these have been on different sheets of paper just to avoid any confusion. But since winter is closing in on us, I would like to make a separate motion to approve the expenditure number 3 of $455 to have the backflow enclosure installed.
I'll second.
Is there any discussion?
On which one of these?
This is number 3. This is the install a new backflow enclosure.
Yeah, identify which bid you're referring to.
Oh, I'm sorry, this is Hall.
Mr. Medlin, I don't really think this is sufficient for the town to be spending money. I thought maybe we had a generic contract that you could attach on your end for their signature. I think if we don't have one, we need that, but I thought we did have one.
We do.
And so with that said, I'll clarify my motion. This is pertaining to an email received November the 9th, 2022, at 3:59 PM from Hall Plumbing. And my motion is to approve item number 3, to install a new backflow enclosure over the existing backflow at the town park for the irrigation system at a cost not to exceed $455.
We have a second. Any further discussion? Jim?
Aye.
Derek?
Aye.
Jimmy? Aye. Tim?
Aye.
And I am also aye.
Now Kim can just issue a purchase order for this. We don't have to go to the attorney for this.
Yeah, that's true, for that amount. But if you want, I've got one that I can just spit out. We can do it either way, thanks. Yeah, I didn't have a copy of the email, so I didn't know what y'all were talking about.
Well, I would just prefer that the town have a little bit more detailed quote about the town's responsibilities and the vendor's responsibilities, instead of just an email, but if council wants to proceed with this, hey, I'm good with that too. I have had some positive limited experience with Hall Plumbing, I bought a few things at the store that they maintain in Monroe in the past.
Can I follow up with just one question about, more to Robbie, but, the, water fountain that you guys worked on, I know we have one that needs to be installed. Has that been discussed as far as installing the one that, because there was some discussion a couple years ago that no one wanted to install it because it was too difficult or.
I've looked at it, Mr. Hall looked at it, and several of us have looked at it. We're not even sure that what we have down there new in a box matches the installation that we have currently. Mr. Hall thinks that he can gain access to what we need to have repaired by removing the pedestal and lifting it off of the concrete. And the drain they showed me how the drain comes loose, so the drain doesn't have to be disconnected. The trap for the drain is down in the concrete, and there's a water supply line there that can be disconnected. So it'll take 2 men, I'm sure, if not more, but it can be lifted off to service the solenoids. And he's pointed to a enclosure there that he thinks contains a strainer to filter the water, so he thinks part of our problem may be, a clogged strainer. And so based on the conversation that I had with him, I don't think we need a new one. I think this one can be repaired. Now, with that said, from what I understand, I called Bill Jones, a former council member that used to spend a lot of time volunteering for the town, keeping that stuff up down there. Those solenoids themselves, the air-operated solenoids, are expensive. There's nothing we can do about that, but I don't know, it may be possible we can take one of the new solenoids that we have in a concession building and install it this one. But when we look at what we have in a concession building, it just does not, this apparatus goes about 5 feet in the ground. I'm just not sure that we can use it if we want to.
Did Hall look at it?
Absolutely. Mr. Wagner, you were present. Do you recall anything else that I didn't mention here?
No, he did look at it. If I'm not mistaken, that water fountain that's inside the concession stand, that's just the internals of what's already out there, right?
Yes.
And he looked at that.
Sorta.
Sorta. It's similar. I emailed him, Chris, the specs that were in the box with what was purchased afterwards. And so he's got that. And so I'm sure he took that into account when he gave his quote. It is tight underneath there. Everything's running together pretty close. So I would imagine it's not an easy task, but he seemed like he could do it. He got 2 out of the 3 working in the time that we were there. There's 3 spigots, one on the top, one a little bit lower, and then one that looks like one for a dog bowl. And I think that's the only one he couldn't get coming out.
Correct. And
Yeah.
at no cost to the town.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that was free. He done that for us.
Well, Mr. Rigsby, I don't see any problem. We could delay this and you could, take those questions and ask him, call him on the phone or meet with him. We're going into the winter, so I don't, it's not quite as pressing as it would be during warm weather.
No, I don't really have any great delay or heartache. I just know that the one that we purchased a couple of years ago has been down there, and it seems like it's just sitting there. And I was just curious if y'all had, since you had the plumber guy there, if you got an answer on it. So going forward, is it just going to continue to sit there, or can we part it out, or can we sell it? Or do something with it?
I think we need to dispose of it. I haven't had it out of the box, but from what I can see, instead of the solenoids being in a pedestal that basically at ground level, the solenoids are down at the end of that tube, which goes in the ground 4 or 5 feet. I'm just not sure what happened here.
Yeah, and it was.
And so, but all these things are expensive, so I think if you want to follow up with it, I'd be, happy for you to do so. But simply, Mr. Hall's problem was he's looking at it and he said, well, I don't know when I start on this, I don't know where I'll get to. So, I think I'll quote a couple of hours to examine it and check it for function and see if it needs any repairs. So this is basically for the $236 basically would be for triage. It's not clear whether or not he's charging 2 hours at $236 or the 2 hours total $236, the way I read this.
Yep. No worries. I was just curious if that discussion come up, but that is something we probably need to, at some point, follow up, so we're not sitting on that purchase.
We have had some difficulty finding a plumber even willing to look at it. They it's kind of an odd duck, and, everybody's busy. Nobody really wants to tackle it. It has been the problem.
Yeah, I understand.
But this is a lot better solution than having to dig up all that concrete in my mind's eye.
Yeah.
But if the solenoids are bad, who knows how much it costs to fix it.
Well, let's have him look at it.
We could put a drink machine out there.
Yeah, I think there's a guy's got a
Coke.
Coke machine.
Coke?
We could contract with
Coke
somebody and make
machine
enough money
sitting
to fix the water fountain after a couple of years.
Well, the citizens, they get what they pay for, a show.
So,
The Golden,
We'll put this one in your name, Tim.
the Golden estimate is for 2 of the Woodford Model 17 faucets, again, which is very similar to what you'd have at your home, with a stem lock. Work is expected to cost between $1,000 to $1,250, plus, I guess that's what that is, plus North Carolina sales tax. Price includes all materials, installation, pipe, valves, hangers, faucets, and labor. So for $1,250 on the top end versus $3,000 for Hall's estimate.
Where are you getting 3,000?
I added,
Yeah, but he's doing a whole lot more than putting a faucet in.
he's putting 2 faucets in. And then the backflow was $455, so I mean, we've already agreed to that, so you can take that off, but if you,
230, it's 3,063.46 for all that stuff, except the 625.
It's just shy of $2,400.
We're talking about two apples and oranges here.
There may be taxes involved, and this is why we need a better quote, who, are taxes included or are they not included?
I got $2,374 for the 2, no, item number 1 and item number 2.
Yeah, well, if you want to settle this tonight, I'm game, Mr. Mayor, but I do want to say, I had this on my supply shelf. I brought it for show and tell. I don't really like the idea of using that. I think that it will get lost in short order. And it still would allow a kid or homeless person or somebody to come along and turn the water on and it would run until somebody called it.
You just ask him, somebody take a rock and bust you.
I mean, that is a solution, but I don't know if it's the best solution for us to use.
I've used a different one, which actually locks to the outlet.
Yeah, just so,
I mean, I would think you'd wanna use something like we have out front with a key, that's got the key that you use.
That's what Hall is priced. And another thing that, you know, the reason we went back and forth and wound up with two different estimates for a hose bib is this. I have some concern that if we put the hose bib on the end of the building, which is convenient, that we will have no matter how many times we tell, you know, a vendor or Parks and Rec or whomever, you know, don't leave a hose connected there, that they'll leave the hose laying there and create a trip hazard that may become a legal problem. And we have to get Mr. Medlin involved. So, I mean, I know how uncooperative my water hoses are about laying flat and staying out of the way. And so that is why we went out and looked at the backflow preventer area out there where we have water. And it is more involved to get us a water spigot out there, because it's got to be a yard hydrant. But it would be out in an area separated from the concession building. There is no doubt we would have to add some bollards or something so the mowers didn't hit it. And so there's just no easy solution that seems that's real cheap.
Yeah.
But whatever council wants to do, or if council wants to think about it, I don't.
Where are you talking about putting this second faucet? Are you talking about putting it on the other side of the water, the track, at the field? Or, I mean, where are you talking about putting it?
The concession building's here, the original picnic shelter's here. There's a box out there that's covering the backflow preventer.
Okay, so you're talking about on that side of the track with the picnic shelter?
Yeah, it would be tapped off of it.
Do we need both of these?
Underground.
Because, you know, we can get water from the storage room.
Inside, yeah.
Inside.
Yeah, I don't think we need both of them,
And that was the whole thing, because when we watered that spot that we had to fix, we had to pull the hose across.
Yeah,
And you're still going, if you use that one on the concession stand on the outside, you still gotta pull the hose across if you're doing something on the field.
that's my point. And so I thought it just too big a decision for me and Mr. Wagner to make, so that's why we asked him for two
I don't
different.
see why you need
They're
two
two
of them.
different. Yeah, and so I think,
You can solve the problem with length of hose. I mean, if you wanted to water something behind the concession stand,
well,
if you go with this yard,
well, just keep in mind, the five of us may not be the ones using it in the future. There's no telling what'll happen.
You can get water,
yeah,
you know, you can get water from the concession stand.
but you gotta leave the
On that
door open.
side.
You gotta leave the door open.
Yeah.
Can I make a
Yeah, please.
suggestion that we table this part of the discussion until we all have time to kind of think on it a little bit, and let's move on with the agenda.
Okay,
Well, I'd like to make a motion to continue it. If we table it, we'll have to vote to untable it. If
So we
just
can all
conti-
kind of talk
Continue
about it a little bit.
continue it to the next meeting, regular meeting,
Yeah.
and that'll give council a lot of, some time to look into it, ask the plumber any questions, et cetera.
Second the motion.
Derek?
Aye.
Jim?
Aye.
Tim?
All right,
And I am I. Next order of business is the replacement of a trash can in the park. And we have an estimate for that. The estimate for that is it's called a TR-32, 32-gallon receptacle, green, portable, dome top for receptacle is included. Rigid plastic liner, in-ground mount with hardware, black. It's $785 for the trash can. The other items were included. Freight is $154, comes to a total of $939. Guilford County tax at $63.38. It's a total of $1,238. Any discussion?
We'll get that tax back, won't we?
Say again?
I said we'll get the tax back.
No, okay.
That's a lot of money for a trash can.
They're outrageously expensive, something like this.
I don't know if you wanna even consider it, but I also looked into, and I don't have any information on it, but, a new 55-gallon drum with one of those tops on it.
Yeah, the top you can buy for about $75. The last time I had to buy one,
Yeah, they're about, well, yeah, they're a little bit more than that now. And
probably.
you got just a little bit of shipping probably. You know, if somebody runs into it with a lawnmower, I mean, it doesn't look as nice as this.
What's broken on the existing one?
It's a lawnmower hit it and tore the side of it. I mean, it's leaning and it needs to be replaced. It's been needed to be replaced, but $1,000.
Yeah, 55-gallon drum. Do we have anybody?
Uniline's got you can get plastic, I don't know, you can get a brand new plastic drum, something like that. I mean, it's just, that's kinda up to y'all. I mean, it wouldn't bother me. I don't know if it bothers some of the folks in town or, it's a trash can.
Well,
And it'd have a top on it, it would hold the trash. It would be new. So you'd be talking probably less than $300 with shipping. That would be another one that if anybody wanted to go that route. If somebody wants to go this $1,000 route, they're gonna have to make the motion.
I'm not gonna vote for $1,000 for a trash
Yeah, I
can.
just can't do it, But
Jimmy,
we do need one. We need a trash can.
And these trash cans match what we have in the park, throughout the
Yeah,
park?
it matches.
I don't want a 55-gallon drum. I'm gonna make a motion that we, buy this trash can for $1,002.38. That includes tax. I don't wanna do it, but,
Where are we going?
and this doesn't include the installation, does it, Mr. Landers?
No, we'll have to install it. I mean, it's, we have to pull that one up.
So we could be looking at,
A little concrete, probably gonna need a little concrete. I don't mind doing it if somebody wants to help. If you don't wanna help,
I'd be glad to help you,
I can do it.
but this does match what we have in the park.
Well, it's supposed to, because the person that sold us the one in the park's the same one that's doing it, and that's what we said. I mean, I can't tell. If it gets here and it don't match, and I'm gonna,
Mr. Foy, we can solve this problem with a $20 barrel, buy a quart of paint, and pour some concrete in the bottom of it to stabilize it, drill a couple of holes so it won't hold water.
and you don't have to draw.
Put a drum liner in it and buy the, lid that has the door built into it for less than $100. We could conceivably put in about 8 of those easily for the cost of this one. My concern about it is it seems like everything you put in a public location like this, sooner or later, somebody damages it. No matter if you give yourself a period of 3 years, 5 years, 8 years, that just get hit.
Now, I'm not talking about buying a drum and painting it. I'm talking about buying a drum that's already painted.
Well,
Or
I'm just saying,
If you wanna go that route, I don't wanna go buying something painted, because I mean, it's, but we can get a drum that's.
well, it's a trash can.
Yeah, I know, but I'm just saying, by the time you paint it, just get a new drum.
You wanna buy a new drum? How much is a new drum to your color?
Well, it depends if it's plastic or metal. A plastic one's a little less than $100.
Okay, well,
The kind
that,
that come without the top, you don't wanna get one you gotta cut now.
well, that's certainly
He's
an
already made a
option.
motion, so,
Yeah, well, I've had my say.
yeah,
Is there a second?
we haven't got to the.
I'll second it.
Any further discussion? Jim?
Aye.
Derek?
Aye.
Jimmy?
No,
Tim?
I'm sorry, no.
put the pressure on the mayor.
Yeah.
It's just somebody else's money, Mr. Mayor.
I'm gonna vote no. In that same vein, Jimmy, can you make arrangements for a barrel?
I mean, you have to
I'd
look.
like to see that barrel before it goes in the park, please.
Yeah, well, I can show you a picture of it.
What's the next step?
Have we looked at this one to see if it can be welded or repaired or
I
anything
haven't,
underneath?
I haven't.
It's tore up. I mean, it's
It's pretty bad.
bent, the base is bent and rusted, and
I have had
needs
citizens
to be
complain
replaced.
and send a picture of it to me.
Can y'all let me know when we decide to put barrels out there in the park for trash?
These burn barrels or just regular
Well,
barrels?
we can, but I'm just not, I have trouble, I have to look these citizens in the eye from time to time around town.
I've got
and-
some citizens
And me
that will
having
look in
voted
the
for
eye
a
too about
$1,000 trash
barrels.
can, I don't like.
I hear you on the price, I do hear that, but, I mean,
Costs money to run a
I,
business.
I will agree with y'all, aesthetics matter, and so I'm with you.
but yeah, no, that's a fortune, I wouldn't do it. But I did it because it matches anyway, it didn't pass, it don't matter. We'll talk about it again probably in a few
Well,
months.
let's do this. Let's do this. The thing's still holding trash. It's been there forever. We'll get some pictures together of what we're talking about, and then we'll talk about it again just for a few minutes. It shouldn't take but just a look.
We'll carry this to the next meeting.
We'll get it on the next
And
agenda.
I'm not talking about getting some old burn barrel or something like that. I mean, it's, you know.
All right, next on the agenda.
Okay.
Consideration of certification of municipal declaration to enact speed limits and request for concurrence for a speed limit reduction from 35 to 25 on Angel Purdue Road.
I added this to the agenda. Angel Purdue Road, right out here, it's 2022. Roughly 17 years ago, there was only 12 folks that lived on that road. Shortly after that, Angels Glen was developed, adding 65 homes. And shortly after that, the town park, town hall was put here. Then in the around 2013, 2014, another 65 homes were added. The landing in Angels Glen, and then now we have 140 homes here. So that's going to be a fairly steady road in terms of traffic. I do have a front row seat, from my backyard when I look at it. And folks just drive too fast down that road. The speed limit, because there's no sign in it, is 35 miles per hour. That's the townwide speed limit unless otherwise noted. And I do believe it's very necessary to reduce that speed limit from 35 to 25 miles per hour in hopes that people will go slower. I think that's important. And Jim may be able to chime in from a law enforcement standpoint, but even if you're going 45 down a road that's 35, on this road it looks like you're flying. But it's hard to enforce, a 45 and a 35. So if somebody's going 40 and a 25, it seems more reasonable that would be enforced. There's a lot of citizens that do walk down Angel Purdue from the adjoining subdivisions to town park. So I think this will be a pragmatic approach to addressing what I see as a safety concern.
Mr. Foy, I have some questions, if I may. Do you feel that this is being motivated by the school, proximity to the school and the busy intersection at 158? Because either that or because of the town hall and the town park, or because of citizen complaints?
I would say, several. One, I do have kind of a front row seat to kind of observe how the traffic goes. Two, the proximity to the park and the number of folks walking to the park certainly is an issue. Three, the width of the road at 20 feet wide is the very minimum you can have for, I guess this is called a collector street in town, so it meets the bare minimums. And certainly they just painted this week the lines on the road. I was pleasantly surprised by how much that would help. It's amazing how the eyes and the brain kind of work together. But yeah, I don't think it necessarily has anything to do with the school. This is from feedback from my neighbors, my friends, and from me just sitting on my back porch.
Have you talked to anybody that wouldn't want to?
I don't know, probably a driver of a black Mustang that lives, I don't know.
I'm just saying, I've talked to one person, the homeowners association president sitting there, what?
It's a very futile effort. We can't get people to stop at stop signs. It's a very futile effort. There's nobody to enforce it. It's a valiant effort. on our part to try to keep the neighborhood safe, but it's a futile effort. If it were my money, it wouldn't be spent for it.
Does it cost?
What's the cost?
I don't know, I'm just saying, if I had to spend the money for it, I don't think there's any. If we get it approved, the state should do it for us.
It's a state road.
Right.
Mr. Medlin, I have a legal question I feel like I need to ask. Given that the mayor and the mayor pro tem live in the neighborhood serviced by this road, can they vote on this, you think, without a problem?
I don't see any direct or indirect financial benefit there, so I don't see.
An access road, no, I don't, you know, I'm not an attorney, but it doesn't make sense.
Yeah. So I
Yeah,
think
well,
it's okay.
I mean, I could be talked into this a little supporting this if it was an extension of the 25 mile per hour zone at the school some way, somehow. Perhaps the 25 could start closer, you know, kind of up that way, or maybe in front of town hall, I don't know. I'm concerned that we're gonna be in a position where we'll have a lot of complaints, the sign will be ignored, and we won't have any way to enforce this. And then, you know, we're gonna have other people in town that may easily say, well, you know, I'd like to have a 25 mile per hour zone in front of my house. And so I'm trying to, if a citizen comes up and asks me these questions, I'm trying to figure out how I would answer them about what makes this road different from their road, if you see what I'm saying, guys.
The speed limits.
If
through
I
the
may,
neighborhood.
what makes this road different than some others in town? Of course, we don't have any others in town to compare them to directly, but lowering the speed limit from 35 to 25, and it's all primary residential and high-density residential with the neighborhoods that close. You have a lot of kids that walk to school in the springtime and the summertime, and they're crossing Angel Purdue. Going from a 35 to 25 on that distance, it's only going to add maybe a fraction of a couple seconds to the commute if you started from one end to the other and you ran 35 versus 25. So it's not I don't see it as a detriment to anybody traveling 10 miles an hour or less up this little short of a road out here. However, the reaction time for someone to have to stop from 35 miles an hour versus 25 miles an hour is a significant difference. If they have to have a reactionary stop because somebody runs out in the road or pulls out in front of them, you know, 10 miles an hour makes a big difference, you know, on reaction time. The human reaction time is 3/4 of a second. So, you know, 10 miles an hour, it can make a difference. And if we have another unfortunate incident with a pedestrian walking, and there are a lot of pedestrians that walk up and down this road, I just think the benefit to lowering the speed limit, providing more reactionary opportunities for people to slow down, see pedestrians, far outweighs the advantage to keeping it at 35. I don't see any positivity to keeping it at 35 when there's no, it's not a thoroughfare, it's not a, you know, a commercial corridor by any means. I just don't see I don't see the argument to keep it at 35 other than somebody just wants to get somewhere a few seconds earlier. As far as enforcement goes, there's two agencies that could still enforce this. Once you post it, I mean, it's very much enforceable by the sheriff's office, and who has a traffic team, as well as the highway patrol could come out here and enforce it. And it's a lot easier to enforce a 25 mile an hour zone than it is a 35 mile an hour zone. In this area out here, this shorter roadway, a 35 mile an hour zone, you really would have to have somebody going around 50 to 55 to really get a legitimate charge of speeding, you know, that would hold up in court. And I'll just tell you from my experience, what looks to be, their speeding is not 55 miles an hour on this road right here. That would be really going fast. But let's say 37 and a 25 is a lot more palatable going into the court system for 12 over on a lower speed threshold. So I think lowering the speed limit does actually open up enforcement efforts a lot more if you chose, you know, if you got to a point where you needed to call someone out here to do an enforcement activity. Right now, if it's not, I don't know if it's posted 35 or not. It doesn't have to be 35 since it's in the town limits.
That's
But by posting it, it also will, you know, strengthen people's knowledge of what the speed limit is there. You know, they see that visual 25, they're more applicable to comply with that versus when they don't see a speed limit, their mind is not registering that there even is a speed limit, maybe.
Yeah.
So,
Well, Mr. Rigsby, what's going through my mind is that, 25 or 35 on this road, I don't live here, I'm not on it as much as our Mayor Pro Tem, so I'll, take their word for it. But most of the time, as we all know, it's just a few drivers out there that cause most of the problems that drive, think they're fighter pilots or something. But, if we're going to restrict the speed on this road, what about Athens Road? When does, it feeds into to the intersection up here that's kind of problematic? Do we need at the same time to look at 25 miles an hour on at least part of it at the same time? We don't have any NCDOT opinion on this, no traffic study or anything like that.
No.
And so that intersection up there is not gonna get any better, it's gonna get worse when these houses back here are built out. Our lots back here are filled, and so, I don't have the solution, but I see the problem.
I don't know that the intersection's necessarily the problem with the speed limit, because at the time they get to the intersection, they reduce speed. I think the real problem that we're talking about is out here, a little bit, a quarter mile, eighth of a mile beyond the intersection when they have the opportunity to increase speed or whatever. And this is where your pedestrians are walking and stuff. Certainly, there's no doubt that the intersection and the approach to the intersections are definitely their own unique problems that we do not have solutions for without widening the road, stoplights, things that are way out of our control. I think what is in our control is slowing the traffic out here, and from here to the neighborhoods is what we're really more concerned about, I think. We're not as concerned about approaching the intersection because they're already slowing down to make that approach. I think we're more concerned about from about right here this way, so that the guy riding the bicycle, he's not, or the kid that's walking from the park, maybe across the street, that when he crosses that street, this driver is not accelerating up to 35 or 40, coming up the road, and they're a little bit more cautious of their speed, just from the high pedestrian traffic area that we have coming in and out of the park, and the kids that walk from school into these neighborhoods. Athens Road doesn't have as many cluster type homes or subdivisions. It's more individual. Now, I haven't seen as much pedestrian traffic on that road. Not saying it couldn't be, but I mean, if that became a need as well, we could certainly address that with DOT and ask them what the possibility would be to reduce the speed limit, at least as it approaches the intersection. But I think at this time, that this primary concern is from here back into these neighborhoods.
Okay, with that being said, then we would need to add these other roads, have we hit in the neighborhoods?
They are
this
already,
list
they're already 25,
They're already 25?
at least in Angels Glen. At least in Angels Glen. I'm not sure about Eastwood.
They're posted 25?
Yes.
They are.
Okay, I just knew the townwide speed limit was 35, so,
We requested it sometime, we the homeowners association.
I see, okay, so Angel Pardue and Adano, okay. That would take care of everything. Everything would be 25 miles an hour from that intersection back that way. Everything back there is a dead end. This is the only outlet.
To your point, there needs to be a sign on Adana going down into Eastwood, because there's not. Now, once you get into Eastwood, they may all be.
So are you for it or
25.
not? I just remember hearing you say this was a futile effort.
I'm
So-
for it. What's gonna happen, in all practical terms, you're gonna post it at 25, the best you're gonna hope for is 35.
It's practical.
Well, again, I think I agree with you in a lot of situations, but I think the unseen benefit here is posting it and people seeing that, yes, it's 25, I need to watch my speed, I need to
I agree with that.
self-regulate.
I agree with that.
I need to self-regulate, where now, a lot of people do not realize that the speed is automatically 35 inside the town if it's not posted. A lot of people, just don't think about it. So by posting it alone, I think you'll have some compliance that will benefit from.
I want to make sure we're not doing this just because the town hall's here. I don't think this building is any more important than somebody else's building on their property in some other corner of the town with similar traffic. And so I'm making sure that we're not doing this because the town hall's here.
I'm
and
in
we
favor of
can't.
it because the park is here.
That's right.
Yeah, well,
Yeah, the sheer amount of pedestrian traffic, if it wasn't for that, I don't think I'd be talking about this.
Any afternoon you drive into the neighborhoods down here, there's somebody on the road. I don't remember a day coming in that there wasn't someone on the road.
well, y'all have me in the sense that I'm not in and out of here nearly as much as y'all are. Just in my mind's eye, that intersection up there is the problem seeking a solution.
100% agree with that. Agree with that.
I make a motion that we have the Angel Purdue down through Adana, speed limit reduced from 35 to 25.
I'll second the motion with a friendly amendment that this is a request for concurrence with the DOT, so we don't have the final authorization, is my understanding.
I accept that.
And
there any
this
further-
this is in the form of an ordinance. You know, changing speed limits is an ordinance.
Yeah, this is we've got the documentation for it.
Then I have a legal question.
Is this a public hearing
Yeah, that's-
issue?
That's my legal question.
Don't think so.
I think it's a DOT public hearing when it comes to that. I think DOT has the
I don't
public
recall that
hearing.
we ever had a public hearing on a speed limit change.
Cool. I don't know.
We did not have one in the neighborhood. There was no public hearing.
I mean, for the town, I don't think it has to be done by us.
Yeah, I think what happens is DOT, once they adopt an ordinance, they have a public hearing time period, and they usually do them in groups or, several at a time, and then they post it, and then once that period exhausts, then they send it out to the enforcement agencies to basically add to, and then DOT adds it to the highway network system. So I think that's kind of how that works. It's a long process, but no, I don't think it's involving us.
Any further discussion? Jim?
Aye.
Derek?
Aye.
Jimmy?
Aye.
Mr. Jones?
Aye.
And I am aye. Is this, Robbie, is this document, this request for concurrence, is that from the DOT or did we put this together?
That's from them.
Yes.
That's their form.
We need to have it amended. I think we need to have it amended. What my motion was to extend the speed limit down Adana.
Okay.
I agree.
So we need to have it amended to include that.
And Dale she's at home watching in, and she just sent me a message. She said there's no public hearing required to change speed limits.
She would know.
So,
Thank you, Pastor Ed. Okay, let's see if we can get this done tonight. Next item is consideration of a resolution to call for a public hearing on the closing of a portion of Angel Purdue Road. Derek, you had a
Nope, not me.
drawing of that, if I'm not mistaken, or?
It's in our package here, if you don't have
I
it.
saw it somewhere.
See this one?
Yeah, I got it, right here. I'm not real sure what they're doing. Didn't we basically deed this over, or what was the thing we did once before on this little section of Angel Purdue?
As I understand it, since it's a state road, they need us to vote to allow them to reconfigure it once it enters onto the old Angel Farm, because there'll be a blacksmith subdivision there, and the road's being modified. And they couldn't do the modification unless we allow them to do so by voting on this resolution. Now, that's my understanding.
But I thought we did this once. Did we not do this, Robbie, since you've been here?
correct. You did that, and then whenever we met with Mr. Snyder, the new planner for this area, he pretty much said that the process that was done was not done correctly. This is the
Okay.
correct way of
All right.
doing it.
All right. So, we need to set a public hearing for this? That's what it's saying?
Yes, it'd be held at the next town council meeting, the 8th.
Somebody help me. What's the procedure for setting up the public hearing? Just advertise it?
Yeah, we'll advertise it in the News and Observer for 4 consecutive weeks. And go from the 16th of this month through the 6th of December.
Okay. I make a motion that we do just that. We hold the public hearing to make this adjustment, allow the state to make whatever change it is they're gonna make in this, or the developer.
I'll second the motion. I do want to identify for the minutes that it's resolution number R-2022-05.
Very good.
Any further discussion? Jim?
Aye.
Derek?
Aye.
Jimmy? Tim?
Aye.
And I am aye. Discussion of American Rescue Plan Policy and Procedures. Is this Kim or is?
It's me, actually.
It's
I'll be
you,
very
okay.
brief. It really is going to cover these next 3 items. And Kim, you might want to add in, the American Rescue Plan, the funding there has, the permitted purposes have changed really since the beginning of the program to what was called the final rule. So they have something where towns can designate the funds will be used for revenue replacement, and, all towns are eligible for a $10 million revenue replacement deduction. So I just shared with council 2 blogs from the UNC School of Government, and wanted to also share with council, with this money, we'll likely be doing RFQ processes, and that's not something that we have commonly done as a town, just because we don't spend a lot of money. So just attach that statute and procurement policies, and anything we can do as a council to support staff in that. And I think we might need legal advice, just because we don't do it often. So I just think it's important to discuss this openly, give Kim an opportunity if she's got any questions. I think it's better than just emailing it out to council. So,
This went out on our sunshine list, Mr. Wagner, so our citizens have.
Yes,
these too.
that's correct. Yeah, that was a part of the packet that got emailed out. There's 3 blog posts, correct?
I recall 2 blog posts and then the procurement manual.
Correct, that's right,
And
that's right.
just-
And that was attached separately. That was a big document.
Well, yeah, it was. It's worthy of mentioning because it's not something we do often. And it's
Absolutely.
something we'll have to manage within the next year.
That is right.
That might be my record.
We charge per page.
Yeah.
We're gonna need to pay for that trash can.
So Kim, when you went to that class about a month ago, did they talk about the revenue replacement?
They did talk about the revenue replacement, and Kara Malonzi is the one who spoke the most on that one. And honestly, I'm looking through my notes here, because there were several notes. She, actually, not just she, but they highly recommended the revenue replacement, because it's way more flexible.
Right.
Yeah, so, it's not as much red tape, as they say, with,
Yeah.
as choosing the other ones. There are, and they just did the final rule, they just did that November, I cannot remember the exact date, they just did that final rule. I'm sorry, October 27th, I'm sorry, not November. And they are still coming out with information. It seems like every time I turn around, I'm getting an email from Cannon and Coates about, this is, just giving more and more information. And that is why I did share the slides with you guys. I sent an email out to you guys the other night and said, here are because it was Right Mini slides. And, of course, we still have to, they highly recommend, and they continued stressing, about keeping up, keeping the records, keeping the
Right.
records, keeping the records, keeping the records. I mean, they said that I don't know how many times, so
Yeah.
we definitely have to keep those straight as well. They did not, as far as the replacement of the lost revenue, it says that, that allocation is between $0 and $10 million for local municipalities. Of course, we got 760.
725.
Thank you. We do not have to show any actual revenue loss, which
Yeah,
kind of shocked me.
Oh, it shocked me too when I was talking with the county
We
about
really
the,
didn't have any revenue loss, did we?
No, and I mean, but they kept saying that too, and I was like, oh, okay.
We're going to give it back.
Yeah, so, we do not have to show the revenue loss. We may spend the revenue replacement, for the, on almost any expenditure that authorized to that is undertaken by the state law, authorized to undertakes by state law, including reimbursement back to March of 2021. For the revenue replacement, it's all about timing. We did have one question about, could we fully obligate funds from by 12/31/24 and fully expend them by 12/31/26? I think that we can, but, I just want to keep that in mind as far as the date, because we have to spend these. They have to be obligated by 12/31/24. They have to be spent by 12/31/26.
you can buy a lot of $1,000 trash cans for that.
We can, just saying.
Yeah. No, but.
Maybe we need to
I
revisit
want to
the
mention, it's worthy of mentioning all this because what Kim says, the rules continue to change.
They do.
And just the verbiage, revenue replacement, is which a lot of small towns are gonna fall under that. And the question becomes, well, we didn't lose this much revenue. And the fact that the state can say, oh, that's okay. You still have $10 million to,
Yeah, that really.
I just think it's crazy.
That really shocked me because I was like, okay, you can choose the revenue loss, that you can choose to replace lost revenue, but you don't have to prove you've lost revenue. Okay.
Right, but you do have to document everything and you'll
Oh,
be submitting
yes.
quarterly reports.
Yeah, well, I've submitted everything that's due so far. I don't have another one due until, actually, they just sent me an update on that one too. It's not due yet. It will be,
Okay.
It'll be sent in.
And record retention, we voted on that last council meeting.
Yep.
How important this will be because all of us could be gone, from our respective roles 5 or 6, 7 years down the
7
road.
yes.
And they still can ask for something. So it's very important that we keep
Yes.
everything in line.
It says at least 5 years after you spend your funds.
Yeah, and
What
that's
is it-
after it's spent, yeah.
And what's a yellow book audit?
Well,
Because it says you spend 100,000, it triggers a yellow book audit, so you need to know that.
under the revenue replacement,
Yeah, I guess so.
I thought that was under
Prepare
something.
for audit. And 750, we don't have 750, so we don't have to worry about it.
Yeah,
a
I
federal
don't
single
think
audit.
that pertained to us because we actually because I think you and I were like, oh, we passed that, we're under that number. We're under we were kind of shocked at some of the numbers that some of the towns received. I think we were the least one.
Really?
But they based it on, we did find out that they based it up because we do not charge.
Based on our budget.
Yeah, and we do not charge a tax to the town, so that is why we receive the least amount.
Yeah, they punish you for being thrifty.
However, with that being said, it also, we will not have to go through the audit, it's not like an automatic audit because of the amount that we received, not meaning that, that we're not gonna do anything we're not supposed to, because we are definitely transparent on
yeah.
everything.
Oh, absolutely.
But what I'm saying is, you just don't wanna have to go through that audit. But everything will be transparent, everything will be, the record retention will be Ts crossed, Is dotted, just like they are now, so.
It definitely says you can spend money on the park. That was one of the things and it took a lot of reading just to get to that part.
Yeah.
But it finally did get to it. So it does say that we can do that.
The only
makes me feel
thing that
better.
I do want to bring to council's attention, in talking about that, I just spoke with, Mr. Rouse about today, because he's been to several of these, workshops as well. His workshops are a little different than ours, because he's the auditor of the town. He did say that they were advising, that this be, a special fund not included in the budget. So I'm gonna get more from him on that, and I just wanted to bring that to your attention, just to, he was saying it did not have to be included in the budget if we didn't, but because he's gonna actually, I'm gonna get with him more on that, but I did wanna bring that to your attention.
Will you get whatever guidance he gives us in writing, please?
Oh, absolutely.
Cause it says a little,
Yeah,
says
please.
something about putting in the budget here.
Right,
So-
well, and that's what I told him, and he did say that it was mixed, kinda, he admitted that's one of those things they continue to send these updates on. It's no joke, I think Derek knows, it's like, every time you turn
Blowing my mind.
around, something different is coming out about these things.
Just document everything if somebody calls, it's
Yes.
just like,
Oh, don't worry, because my name is signed on this, and I'm responsible, so you best believe.
Mr. Foy, I have trouble with this. It's not clear to me how printing all this money and giving it to state and county and local governments defeats the virus that we've been contending with. But I'm trying to get past all that, and if they're handing out free money to other towns, I guess the logical thing to do is for us to take it. But with all that said, unless there's something preventing us from doing so, I very much would like to have a separate account for these funds to be placed in and dispersed from. Can we try to do that, you think?
That is set up.
It's already done, that's been done.
I don't care I don't know, what are we gonna label it? Can it be ARP free money, or would it be designated in such a way that me or any citizen can figure out where it came from? And
It's on, yes, it's on the balance sheet, in the general fund. It's on your balance, hold on.
I think I saw it, but I wasn't sure that was the
Right at the
specific
top
purpose.
of the balance sheet where it says ARPA, Fidelity Bank 7869, that's your fund, and that is your separate checking account. And anything and everything to do with, that comes out of that account will be run through that account. Page 1 of 1 on your balance sheet.
could put grandchildren's future tax money.
Just a checking account, and it's non-interest bearing because we can't have that on there. Yeah, nope, can't have it.
We can't have it in an interest-bearing account.
No, you can't make interest on, federal free money.
Really?
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
Well,
that's why there's no interest in that
Heard it
account.
all.
Ms. Thacker, I'm a simple guy. If it's possible and council doesn't object and the citizens are okay with it, I would like to see that spelled out, the ARPA, because if somebody walks in this building in the coming months and picks up one of these, they're not gonna know what an ARPA is.
Okay,
Some of our citizens, they attend our meetings sporadically, depending on what they're interested in, and I'd like to see that.
problem. American Rescue Plan.
Do we need to do a review of the procurement manual? Did you say
No,
those are already?
No, I've just shared it with council.
Okay.
I trust you've already read it.
I have not. General Statute 143, 129?
I just wanted to share with council and talk about it and how this all applies to the ARP money and the importance of, that we follow the proper procedures and all that. And it's only worth mentioning because we don't have a town manager and we do not normally spend money of these magnitudes. It's just, so it's different. It's just something different, and it's
I would
worth.
like, if council does have a chance, the slides that I sent you, I would really like for each of you just to, you don't have to go through them detail, but just glance at them and just kind of look through them. Because I think that each and every one of you guys need to be familiar with it as well. Not just, just me as the finance person or whatever, but that way, we've got Ts crossed, Is dotted. If there's any questions, at least you can say, no, Ms. Thacker, that's not what it said in that slide, you know, or something like that. But, I can assure you I will go by it, but if you guys could just look at it, that would be, it's interesting. Well, it was to me.
Well,
They did a good job putting it in layman's terms
They
too,
really did.
in the
we
slideshow.
we can look at it, but it is your responsibility.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Oh, you bet, I know,
Yeah,
I
so-
read the lines before I signed the document.
Yeah, no, I got you.
I did.
I'm with you, Kim, but
I didn't wanna sign them, but I did.
Discussion of improvements to the town water system.
Where are we now?
We are on, number 13.
I can start it out if you like, Mr. Mayor.
Please.
All right. Back in August, the town received a grant, $3.1 million through Guilford County via the federal government. That's in addition to a $1.1 million grant the town received in 2020. So that's roughly $4.2 million of grant monies that shall be spent for water system improvements. In addition to that, the town currently is also applying for an additional $400,000 grant that we should know the outcome on that sometime in the early spring, and that's through the North Carolina Division of Water Infrastructure. So when we received the $3.1 million grant, council decided to have workshops every other week so we could have good discussion, you know, hoping to lead to good outcomes and how we can best spend the money for our town's water system and our citizens. So we've talked about, you know, various things from water age to water quality to a second interconnection to extending the current system to parts of Stokesdale that are currently underserved and do not, in terms of town water, and do not have municipal water. An additional trunk line or water main into the town core, which of course, into the town core, it starts to spider web its way out from in there. I think we've had some good discussion to the point where, in my opinion, I think it's time for us to talk about this in town council meetings. And, you know, potentially look at, I believe the first step in any process with this would be to a request for qualifications from an engineering services. So that's the first step as I see it. So, you know, Tim, I'll look to you for maybe you can talk about some of the discussions we've had in terms of water quality and age improvements in the diffuser and stirrer and altitude valve. I will butcher that if I start talking about it, but you say it very, very well.
Well, Mr. Foy, I didn't come prepared with any notes to address that, but I'll wing it. The two main things the town of Stokesdale monitors continuously are operator responsible in charge, Gary Machusis does, is our residual chlorine and something called TTHMs. The TTHMs are chemical byproducts that are produced as a result of treating surface water, and they're regulated by the EPA. So the simple way that I think about it is it's kind of like a seesaw. The more chlorine that's put in the water, the more byproducts you get, so you try to avoid using any more chlorine than you have to. And the other thing that elevates our TTHMs is the age of the water in the pipes. In the summer, during warm weather, the chlorine tends to dissipate more, and you know, this results in a situation where our higher TTHM limits are usually reached in about August. We have no control. We have a chemical boost station where the operator can add chlorine, but we have no control over the TTHMs. All we can do is flush water and get rid of that high TTHM water. I think Winston-Salem has improved their water quality significantly over the past few years, I feel. And there's a couple of places that we can make changes that will improve our situation, and this is documented in the $84,400 Hazen and Sawyer report that was produced recently and completed and submitted to the town. So in this report, it recommends that we install a electronic control on our pressure reducing valve, which is at our metering station. And this in turn would be connected through a radio connection to similar equipment underneath our elevated tank at our altitude valve. And in other words, basically our pressure reducing valve would talk to our elevated tank and allow our tank to cycle more than it does now. And the goal would be to minimize the age of the water that's circulating in our tank and out of our tank, because that's one of the places where if the water gets old, our TTHM problem will become elevated. By extension of that, one of the options council is looking at is installing equipment in our elevated tank to aerate the water or stir the water, which will allow the TTHM byproducts to dissipate. The stir kind of looks like a giant milkshake grill that would be installed inside the tank. As I understand it, that's older technology. The newer systems are aeration systems that are pneumatically controlled. Basically, as I understand it, the water is taken up to the top and mixed with air and allowed to cascade into the tank. Now, Mr. Foy's kind of put me in a spot here attempting to explain this with my basic layman's understanding. But I have had conversations with, for example, the water plant operator in Madison told me once that they installed these aeration systems in their elevated tanks, and it had just totally eliminated their TTHM problem, which I thought was wonderful. The only downside is they're expensive, somewhere around $200,000 to install an elevated tank. So the opportunity to use these funds that we're receiving from higher government and install one of these systems is very appealing to me. To my mind's eye, the only downside is really probably any maintenance issues we might experience from power outages or electrical storms, that sort of thing. I don't see a problem with it otherwise based on what I know. But anyhow, is it sufficient?
No, that's good. I certainly didn't mean to put you on the spot. You are well-versed when it comes to the mechanics of the water system.
Well,
And I also should mention in these...
Mr. Foy, let me make a point here. In the land of the blind, the one-eyed man is king. But we should still always be sure we have the necessary experts available.
But and to your point, we did bring the experts to our water workshops. We had, our town employee, Gary Machusetts, played an integral role. The North Carolina Rural Water Association was here with us. And of course, our on-call engineer, Hazen and Sawyer, were vital to this, because you're right, we do need sound advice from that. And I think we got that from the folks that came and helped us out during those meetings. But hats off to Tim for explaining that. I agree with Tim, and by extension with Hazen and Sawyer, that those will be two very worthy projects for the town to undertake in terms of water age and water quality. Let's see, does anybody else want to say anything? Because I can keep talking, but I want to hear what everybody else has to say.
Well, there's another point I'd like to make. There's some questions that have come to my mind after reading the Hazen and Sawyer report. There's a few questions that I thought should have been asked that were not asked. And one of those, Mr. Lander put forth at our last water workshop meeting, and that was the capacity of our 12-inch line that we currently have to Walkertown. And I have also asked preliminary questions concerning this, and that is something that I would like for council to nail down, maybe even commission a second engineer to study that and render an opinion about the everyday availability of water, or the 24-hour supply there, or perhaps the peak water availability anytime during the day. And it's complicated because Winston-Salem has tapped and continues to tap off of that line to serve areas in Forsyth County. But currently, I believe that main has quite a bit of capacity, and where the bottleneck is at our metering station, where we have a 12-inch main that comes into our metering station, but only an 8-inch main that comes up 158 into downtown Stokesdale, and splits off there and goes in a few directions and goes to our elevated tank. But the bottleneck is that 8-inch line from the metering station into town. And so that is one of the reasons why council's been looking at the option of a loop that would go down Coldwater Road to NC 65 and turn right and then east into downtown Stokesdale. So we would wind up with a scenario, basically we would have two 8-inch water mains that would be feeding water from Winston-Salem into the center of the town of Stokesdale. And so I think this is a workable plan, but we just need to, devil's in the details. We need to be sure we cover all the details.
And what Tim is saying is important. We need to know, the capacity of what can go down a pipe, because we do have one 12-inch main that comes from Walkertown down Highway 158. So our engineers are going to help us to establish that. But this is just a reference that's on the internet. So if it's on the internet, it must be true. So this, let's see. Scroll up, Robbie. So this is a 12-inch pipe, and these are different volume flows, pressures, of course, is what you're going to have in a system. You're going to have head loss, friction loss. But, if you look at the middle of the range here, what can get through a 12-inch pipe in terms of gallons per hour? You're looking at, what is that? 60,000 gallons per hour, just kind of in the middle range there. Yes. So you multiply that by 24. And maybe that's the theoretical capacity of what can go through a 12-inch water main in a 24-hour period. And for this discussion, I think it's important to address 12 inches because that is the capacity constraint downstream. And Tim mentioned as it is today, once we get into the town of Stokesdale, we have an 8-inch water line, pretty much when you cross the lake there. So if you scroll up and look at the capacity for 8 inches, kind of use the middle there. So, let's call it 15,000 an hour, multiply by 24. I'm sure Robbie knows that, but I don't. But so currently the town's allocation from Winston-Salem is 300,000 gallons a day.
That's 360.
Say what now?
15 times 24 is 360.
360. 360. So it's reasonable. It's reasonable to believe that, a secondary water line, another 8-inch water line that would essentially run parallel to this would be something the town needs. I don't want to say it would need it from a capacity standpoint in the near future, but, looking on out, it certainly would be a good thing to have. And I said running a parallel line. When I say running a parallel line, I don't mean run it on the other side of 158 parallel to the other line. And what Tim was, when we've discussed in water workshops, is running a line that would essentially go from Coldwater to 65 to Oak Level Church Road. That's roughly 3.3 miles of water line in the town, in the far northwest quadrant of the town that, like I say, has not had the accessibility to municipal water over time. So I'm going to talk about a secondary interconnection in a minute. This is not one of those, but this does supply a second water main into the town core, like I say, where it splits off. It does supply 3.5 miles of water line into the town of Stokesdale that we don't have, and the benefits to the citizens with that, I believe, are endless. Fire protection comes to mind. Just access to in that quadrant of the town, access to municipal water, but also I believe it was 2017, 2018. I wasn't around, but I think it's pretty well known, probably by most folks in this room, that we did have a pretty significant failure on Highway 158 that could have, it didn't, fortunately, but it could have negatively impacted the town from getting water for a period of time. I don't know how long that period of time would be. We're very fortunate to have, a emergency response plan was in place and it was executed, and Yates Construction was on hand, and I think we circumvented any other issues, but it kind of shined the light on our potential vulnerability if that was to happen before, because that is at the onset of our system, and it affects all the customers in the system. So should that happen again, if this water line, call it cold water 65 loop, you know, we could avoid that. So I see the benefits of doing that with this money. It's hard to say how much that'll be. You know, if it's 3.3 million, 3.3 miles, the kind of the adage, I think, in the water industry is $1 million a mile, but, you know, so that would be $3.3 million. But, you know, if you ask anybody, engineers, you know, hey, how much will this will be? I mean, the classic answer is, it depends. I'm like, give me a ballpark figure. No. Engineers don't like to ballpark things, but, so, and I get it, but I think that's a reasonable estimate for how much that would be. So that's a significant cash outlay for the town. But again, I see the benefits to that in terms of water line extension for the town of Stokesdale, and using this money in addition to the quality and age improvements that Tim has talked to. I want to talk about a second interconnection. You know, when we talk about a second interconnection, that is, in a sense, that's either tying into Rockingham County, wherever it may be, or tying into a different location to the Forsyth County system. The most plausible location to tie, if we were to tie into an alternate location for the Forsyth County system, would be to extend the line down Hall River Road. You know, and I think that's a worthy project. It's only going about 1/4 mile into, and then you get out of the town of Stokesdale jurisdiction. Then you got about 2.5 miles of the Oak Ridge jurisdiction, then roughly, you know, 2.5 miles into Forsyth County before you loop in. I don't dislike that project. I've kept an open mind to the different options. What I would like to see, if the town was to participate in that, or if the town was to move forward with that, I would like to see some kind of participation from other stakeholders that would benefit from that water line, and outside the town of Stokesdale. And I'll just leave it at that. Now, is that feasible? Is it possible? In my opinion, no. Not at this time. It's not. You know, the town of Oak Ridge is, you know, congratulations to them. They have a new municipal water system, and they're using their water money from this ARPA money to help further lay the foundation in their water system. I think if the town wants to pursue that, I believe the avenue would be to, next year, we're going to have the bipartisan infrastructure bill. And in my opinion, we should seek funding for that in terms of a secondary interconnection, whether it be Hall River or Rockingham County. Some challenges we've had with Rockingham County. I don't want to call them challenges because we really haven't had any in-depth discussions. Preliminary discussions indicated that Rockingham County would be willing to sell the town of Stokesdale water if we extended our water line down 158, you know, past 73, and connected into water that is supplied by the city of Reedsville. Several challenges there, in my opinion, but the main challenge of that would be that Reedsville treats their water differently than Winston-Salem treats our water. So you'd be mixing chloramine and free chlorine. Can you do that? Sure. That requires a lot of treatment. It requires a full-time employee to oversee that treatment. It would be complicated. Therefore, I'm not for that option. So in my mind, as one council member, that's not a good option to me in the future. A more appealing option would be to connect to Rockingham County, just about a mile up the road, to I guess it generates from Madison, and that's treated via free chlorine. Well, in my opinion, there's a lot of growth going on in that part of Rockingham County. Capacity may be a concern, or it may not be. I certainly am in no point to make a judgment on that. It's just kind of an opinion I have. It may or may not be, but you know, we were pushed to, or suggested to go to Reedsville probably for a reason. So when it would be simpler to do Rockingham County. So those are the three interconnection options that I believe that either I or other council members have you know, vetted out behind the scenes. At the time, I don't think, at this time, I don't believe an second interconnection is feasible with the money that we have and other challenges that I see. But I think council needs to keep an open mind to it, and I think, if we work with Hazen and Sawyer or any other engineering firm in terms of applying for grants with the bipartisan infrastructure study, I think that could be a valuable project for the town of Stokesdale. That's it. I wanted to get this on the agenda so we could get it out in public, kind of the discussions we've had in our workshops, and that's what I have.
Well, Mr. Foy, since the citizens are here and they're listening, can you give them a overview of the engineering grants we've applied for? With Hazen and Sawyer's working on for us
So the grants can be used for certain purposes, and we will certainly need help on that. But one of them, the purposes can be, for planning purposes. So I think that's a good thing. A rate study, an official rate study, I think we would see benefits of that. Design, it can be used for design. It can't be used for construction of the water line, but it's just $400,000. So we could certainly spend $400,000 on design and planning part of it, but we couldn't use it for laying pipe.
Well, it's a little scary when I hear you say just $400,000. These kind of numbers for this council are scary to me, but,
I think you know what I mean, though. I hear you. There's money out there. We're doing the best we can to pursue it. I think we've been successful in securing some funds. There's more out there, and, despite your feelings on it and how it impacts inflation and our grandkids and all that, I certainly don't disagree with any of it, but I think, as long as we're doing our best to pursue these avenues for funding, to improve our water system, I think as long as we're doing our best, but I think doing our best presents a different set of challenges for us.
Help me out with the next Waterworks workshop date, the 15th?
I can't remember what we said, if we would call special called meetings for workshops going forward. Say what, Jimmy?
We didn't set a date.
Well, we had to cancel the 8th because of the election, so that's how we
correct.
had a date.
And I know there was discussion of definitely moving them from 5 o'clock to 7 o'clock, and then it was brought up as to whether or not we just wanted to do them as needed rather than following the
That's where
2-week
we-
guideline.
That's where we landed.
Yeah.
Okay, but we did change the time to 7.
Yeah, we're gonna do them at 7, but when we need one.
Yeah.
So we'll publicize that. If you'd like to join us, it is an open meeting, so please.
So November 15th at 7?
No, it's as needed right now.
As needed at 7, okay. And then, of course, we would call it, per North Carolina general statutes, being a special call meeting, we'd have to call it 48 hours in advance.
Yeah.
Yes.
What about those two projects that we beat those two projects to death? We're gonna do one or both, or
Which ones, Jimmy?
the aerator or the stir
the PRV control valve
and the control valves?
and the TTHM mitigation system.
Are we gonna have to send out requests for qualifications on that, or, how?
The only motion I'm gonna have for tonight is a request of qualifications for the 3.3 mile water line extension. I certainly don't mind including that in the motion. If we do get that $400,000 grant, I believe some of that could be used for the altitude valve, according to our engineer. If y'all like to make a motion to go ahead and do it now, or want me to
Now,
figure out how to make a
he did
motion.
say something about if we did a project before we got the money, we couldn't use the money. It had to be
And-
after.
And that's why,
So maybe,
that's why I'm sitting tight on that.
yeah, okay, well, maybe I need to slow down.
No, hey.
But the
you're
one
good.
thing I'm concerned about, I guess it doesn't cost anything to do requests for qualifications, but
No,
we've got to know how much water we can get in that 12-inch pipe that's gonna be available to us. We got to know how much Winston-Salem's willing to up our allocation.
Well,
You know, we gotta know, we need to know. those
Winston-Salem
things.
upping their allocation, that's key. It's not key for next year, it's not key for 5 years, but it's key for 10 years. And to go ahead and get that reserved and in place, I think is something we should do now.
And I've heard a meeting after, well, I hadn't heard it lately, but I used to hear it a lot, that, you know, get all the water we wanted from Winston, but
Well,
we haven't done it, and we haven't renewed our contract. And, you know, we need to know, because we don't need to be laying pipe if we can't get any water.
I mean, okay, we can still get 300,000 gallons, we know that, and we know that we consume about 115 today. We have a projection from Hazen and Sawyer that, you know, goes out a long period of time. I think some of the variables that were considered in that projection were flawed, such as, you know, we're only gonna have residential houses built in Stokesdale for forever. No, I'm sure we're gonna have more businesses in Stokesdale as the years goes on. You know, how to advise Hazen and Sawyer on that, you know, it becomes more of a, I guess, a swag, if you will. But, you know, to assume that we're only gonna have residential growth for the next 50 years, I think is, that's probably a poor assumption, you know. In things like schools, you know, culp ticking, if we had another culp ticking, these are significant step changes in water consumption. I think culp's a little, you know, 20 to 25,000 gallons a day for us. So, you know, if we had another business like that into town, those are significant step changes to us. And I think that supports exactly what you're saying, Jimmy, to go ahead and get the allocation increased from $300,000. They're gonna wanna know, what do you want? And why are you asking for this? Because you continue to only use about 110, 115. And, you know, even 5 or 6 years ago, we were using 90 to 95. So residential growth really doesn't move the needle per se in terms of water consumption. But, you know, in terms of strategic planning to reserve that capacity, I think is key. The second thing I want to talk about, to your point, is just the Winston-Salem water system as an entire entity. If you could pull up the fourth email I sent you tonight and go to page 11.
Let's see.
This is from the Timmons Group study that was done, I don't know, 4 years ago, I think. All right, I can't even read this. Are we on page 11?
Yep, that's
I'm
11.
gonna read it.
You gonna read it from right there?
Yeah, is this page 11?
Yeah. Correct.
Okay, whoa.
11.
Okay, right there, Winston-Salem, Forsyth County. The
Sorry.
City of Winston-Salem Utilities Department has been favorable towards selling water to regional systems in Guilford County. The Winston-Salem, Forsyth County, system consists of a water treatment capacity of up to 91 million gallons a day. That's their capacity. 4 years ago, the city's current average usage was 36 million gallons a day, leaving an excess of approximately 55 million gallons per day. So I'm just gonna look at these numbers and make an assumption that the city of Winston-Salem has plenty of water capacity to sell to Stokesdale. And I'll just make that statement based off these numbers from a Timmons Engineering study. So they're selling 36 million gallons a day to Winston-Salem, all points west, you know, in the suburbs west, Clemens, possibly even, you know, Davie County, Kernersville, you know, and a little, you know, to us. So all that is consuming 36 million gallons a day. I think it's reasonable to assume that they would have the capacity to increase that 300,000 gallon allocation to us. And then the second point is, you know, just looking at what was on the internet of what can go through a 12-inch pipe. it seems reasonable to believe that any increase for us could go through a 12-inch pipe. But we should see an engineering study that confirms that. And, you know, I think Cancel has said that.
Help me here, but I think our Hazen study projects our usage at, about 0.4 million out to 2040. Does that sound right? It's not as much as you would think or guess, you know, how accurate they are, you know.
Well, I mean, so I do agree that the study showed us crossing the 300,000 gallon threshold. Some pretty significant assumptions were made in that, such as the town would supply water to Dorset Downs, Arbor Run. If the town would like to sell water to Aqua, you know, and us feed into those tanks in Arbor Run, I guess that is a discussion. But to assume that we would gain, you know, the 300 or so homes in Arbor Run, you know, why would Aqua turn that over to us? So, you know, there were some head scratchers in there from me, but, you know, I can't explain that. But there were some pretty significant, you know, assumptions. But yeah, I mean, but if you think about it, really, 400,000 gallons a day, 40 years from now or 30 years from now.
I just don't know how accurate that could be.
Well, and I don't either, because in that study, again, only residential growth was assumed. That's a dangerous assumption. But I'm not sure what more to say other than I do believe we need to revisit, and I say revisit because it has been discussed by the Stokesdale Town Council in the last, 4 years, getting that allocation increase from 300,000 to a certain number. And trying to support why we would want to do that, I think we can point to that Hazen and Sawyer study, even if we believe it's, even if we have concerns about the accuracy, or we have the ability to sit down with Hazen and Sawyer again as their client or customer and say, well, okay, populate this into your model, and assume some kind of commercial growth or school, another school in this area that may use our water system. Just one restaurant. It's a lot different. One restaurant may use as much water as 30 houses. So I don't know. But I have talked way more than I wanted to. Mike, Jim?
You wanted to make a motion? You wanted to make a motion, Derek?
I can make a motion, yeah. I make a motion for the town of Stokesdale to put out a request for qualifications to seek out a qualified engineering firm to perform engineering work, surveying, design, study right-of-way, perform right-of-way studies, utility locations, and manage the construction bid process to run approximately 3.3 miles of water line from Coldwater Road to connect to the water main at Oak Level Church Road.
I'll second the motion. Is there any discussion?
So when did we decide definitely we was gonna do that?
No,
I mean, did we,
Just getting qualifications.
yeah, I mean,
getting qualifications?
we won't be locked in financially until,
Okay.
we,
Okay, that's good enough.
and if we change our mind, I think the request for qualifications could apply to where we change our mind to. I'm sure.
That's good, that's good enough.
Do we need a submittal deadline on it? Or is this gonna be open?
I mean, I think, I don't know, I think in terms of writing an RFQ, I would like to see us use the Rural Water Association to help consult us on that, to make sure we're including everything.
Any further discussion? Jim?
Aye.
Derek?
Aye.
Jimmy? Aye. Tim?
Aye.
And I am aye.
Presentation by Town Park Improvement Committee. T?
Yep. This is T. Stevenson. He's the chairman of the Town Park Improvement Committee.
Good evening.
And then,
I do have a PowerPoint presentation here. I think Robbie's got it pulled up for us here. I believe you got a copy in your packets there if you'd like to follow along or look at the B screen there. So on the second page there, Mr. Wagner, just quickly, we used the results from the Town Park survey that was conducted in 2020, and using a weighted average where a greater than 3 is a favorable indication, 3 is neutral, and less than 3 was unfavorable, meaning that they did not particularly want to see these uses here. We established the following 4 projects, if you will: nature trails, playground equipment, basketball courts, and an amphitheater. And I was going to just take a couple of notes here real quickly. You'll notice that their benches, farmers market, and picnic shelters were in that top categories there in between. And then we just decided that benches would be incorporated within other projects within our park here that we already have. And I think we had previously done a farmer's market on town park premises. There is a successful farmer's market in downtown Stokesdale during the summer months. And then we do think that the picnic shelters are adequate right now to service the needs of what we're doing in our current client base. So that's why we kind of skipped over those. With regard to nature trails, we want to establish nature trails throughout the forested areas surrounding Stokesdale Town Park, allowing for hiking, walking, exercising, and non-paved surfaces. So we do have a very nice path around the park perimeter now, but it is paved, and we do have some requests for a more natural, scenic area to go through and enjoy nature there. This is kind of my idea too. Having a undefined non-paved area, we could possibly host cross-country meets or other scholastic activities with middle schools, high schools in the area that don't currently have their own facilities to conduct these meets. That would, again, enhance the ability, well, number one, the attraction to the park, but number two, the physical activity of our young people. And then again, the possibility of future adding exercise stations throughout the park or throughout the nature trail, giving another opportunity for exercise and enjoying the nature there while increasing your aerobic activity. Okay. With regard to the playground equipment, we met with a consultant and kind of gave some guidelines with regard to what we'd like to see. And it's basically to complement what we've already got in the existing playground. That equipment is geared more towards the younger children, 2 to 5 years old. So what we wanted to do was recommend some additional equipment that would be for an older age group, say 5 to 12, and would emphasize upper body strength, balance, and agility through those various exercises and apparatuses. We have received some information from the consultant. We are in continued conversations with them with regard to what additional or items would be deleted with modifying those. Now, I thought it would be good, well, actually, all of us on the committee thought it would be good to show you where we anticipate these facilities coming. So the first slide there you see on the left is the overhead view of Town Park. Thank you, Robbie, for zooming in on that. And so you can see there that the existing playground is there kind of in the center lower section there. And if you'll switch over to the right-hand photo, Robbie, that blows it up even further and shows with proximity to the current walking trail and town hall, that the new proposed playground area would just be an extension of the existing, would be approximately 27 feet in width, and then length would be up to an additional 100 feet. And again, that would, we could use some of the existing plastic borders there, but it would call for additional fill material for cushioning and, of course, the equipment that would go in that area there. We're very mindful of drainage and the existing ecological considerations for the position of that playground. See, I'm not just reading this, I'm making this up. Okay, we also considered basketball courts. That was pretty high on the list. We have received some preliminary indications from a supplier of materials, and rather than using concrete or asphalt alone, it's recommended that we go with a, basically it's a modular court made of polypropylene laid on top of the concrete or asphalt or a hard surface. So basically it's rubber. It would provide for additional cushioning. It would be a much safer option, providing protection against abrasions, head injuries, and joint strain. And of course, as you can imagine, and I do have a little bit of experience with this. When I went to North Carolina State University way back in the dark ages, they had just applied a rubberized court in replacement of the Reynolds Coliseum court there, and that met with favorable results. It may have saved the life of David Thompson at the time because he fell on that court, and were it a traditional wooden court, he may have broken his neck versus actually, having a little bit more of a cushion there. But just a little side like that. Most of you don't remember those years. But some of us do.
Huge credit for mentioning David Thompson in a town council meeting.
There you
But you're
go.
right, I don't remember.
There you go.
David who?
You should know, Mr. Rigsby.
I thought you said Michael something, Jordan.
Yeah, that was kind of like, Thompson was the one everybody was measuring Jordan against. So anyway, I digress.
Good.
Another attribute to having the rubberized court is that it would be less maintenance in the long run and would not require additional painting or resealing on a periodic basis to maintain the integrity. In the next slide, Mr. Wagner there, we've got, again, the overhead view, and where we are proposing that we position this court is kind of in the corner of the newly acquired property that I believe we were able to purchase last year about this time. And it is adjacent to the walking trail in the, as you look at it in the northern sector of that property, right before you get to the parking lot. And again, Mr. Wagner, on the next slide, or on the right-hand slide, is a larger view of that. The proposed dimensions would be 70 by 94. And we would have a 10-foot chain link fence and probably a green to go along with the wooded area that we anticipate there. Certainly, it would require some grading and elimination of the forestation, but we do want it to blend in with that. There would be a total of 6 courts on this. There would be, well, actually 6 basketball goals. You would have a full court, and then you would have 2 cross-court capabilities in there. Okay. On the amphitheater, We did receive a 3D rendering of the amphitheater from Lori Hawkins, who we had been in contact with and approved the go forward with getting plans from her in previous town council meetings. The amphitheater is to be located in the wooded area beyond the current parking lot in Stokesdale Town Park. The rendering does include a covered stage, seating for approximately 270 persons, also includes walkways, plants, and landscaping. It would be accessible to handicapped patrons and emergency vehicles. Okay, on the next slide, it does show a diagram or a schematic, if you will, of the layout. We have met with a general contractor who is working up a very ballpark approximation of what it would cost to construct the amphitheater. And then, again, I've done the same thing here, giving you an overhead view of the approximate location. As you can see, it's in the western, due west of the current parking lot. And again, with the blow up on the next slide, or the right-hand slide there, it gives you just a little bit more detail on where it would be located there. Again, it does require some grading and elimination of forestation. I think this is a very good area for the amphitheater, and we're excited about getting some additional information on what the cost would be. Okay, next slide, Robbie. In looking at various options, we did look at a plan for a kit, and it's actually offered by Polygon Open Air Structures. We have received a preliminary indication of the cost of this structure. It's very similar to a structure that's over in Jamestown. And so Mr. Foy and I did go over there and look over that structure. It is metal, it is low maintenance. We can dress it up however we would like to with regard to some stone columns there around the supports there. And then several different variations of the wood ceiling and rafters and roof and that kind of thing. The preliminary numbers that we got on the amphitheater do not include actually the installation. We do, however, have some recommendations from contractors that have experience with erecting these structures, so certainly we would bear that in mind on a go-forward basis. Real quickly, that was just a quick overview of what we've been doing. We've been meeting every week for the last couple of months, I guess, and having these discussions. I think we're making some really, really good headway on that. We're certainly open to any questions that may be coming from council.
T, that's excellent. Looks great.
Thank you, sir.
That's good.
You mentioned on that last structure that you did have an estimate. Can you provide that?
In the neighborhood of 57,000 delivered.
Okay,
And we should be very clear that that's just for the structure.
that doesn't include the concrete, grading,
Correct.
Correct.
electrical, stuff like that.
Right. Now, the kit does, I believe, Mr. Rigsby, include cutouts for the electrical and stuff, but it does not include the actual electrical work or components thereof.
And it does include the engineering drawings.
Yes, yes.
You guys have done great. You really have.
Well, the proof is in the pudding.
Who else was on your committee, please?
T and Deanna.
Yes, sir.
No, T and Deanna. Deanna's back there. Jimmy.
And
Yes.
Jenny and Derek.
Right.
There's four of us.
Great.
Robbie.
And Robbie.
Well,
Did you get to vote, Robbie?
no,
No, okay.
absolutely not.
We have to do what he says or he'll write us up bad.
Yeah, okay.
If it's green, it's for me. If it's anything that's UNC Charlotte green,
Oh,
that's
get
my
out of
vote.
here, you know.
But
Got to get it in, don't we?
I hear you.
It's good school.
T and Deanna have
Right.
been, of course, Jimmy's awesome always, but T and Deanna have been incredible to work with, and it's just been a pleasure to. This committee's gotten a lot they've done a lot of work and, you know, put a lot of effort and thought into it. Obviously, you know, they're part of we've talked a lot about the ARPA money tonight, in terms of the water system in the previous discussion, but, there is a component of, ARPA money that the town is not obligated to spend on the water system. However, it certainly would be permissible if we could, and that amount is $725,000. You know, park improvements would be a great thing to see. I think we have some, work to do on this amphitheater, pencil sharpening, if you will. But you know, it's a beautiful plan, and I certainly hope we can get to some derivative of this plan.
Mr. Foy, council made a decision to split that money between our water system and the park, the $700,000 amount.
I don't remember that.
It was made in a budget workshop meeting.
I remember that we said that we were gonna hold it out just in case we had some contamination problems, and we found out we didn't have any.
Also, Jimmy and Tim are both right, and it was put in the budget this year for $362,000 for, of that money for the water system. So to Tim's point, we did appropriate half of that to this year's budget, and we also appropriated the $50,000 small town grant that we've got for this year's budget. So, you know, you guys are both right in the event that was needed for the water system. Since that, which occurred in, you know, May or June as we were preparing our budget, since that, we've got an additional $3.1 million that could be used to the water system. So we did not have that money then. So
We haven't,
I would consider it very reasonable to balance out, you know, $4.3 million, potentially $4.8 million for the water system, and about $700,000 for the park.
we haven't voted on it yet, but I'd like to see some money go. I mean, there's, you know, there's only so many citizens on the water system, which, I mean, we need the money for the water system we got. But this is, we'll be able to use some of that money that everybody will be able to enjoy. I think all these projects will be, something that people of all ages will be able, you know, to enjoy. And every citizen in Stokesdale. Not just the water, because a lot of, you know, a lot of people not on the water system, they're not gonna get any, I mean, it's their tax money too, their grandkids' tax money too.
Any further discussion on the park?
Yeah, I was saying something. I don't remember what I was saying, but,
I'm sorry, Mr. Foy.
it's no problem. We still got some work to do on the amphitheater. Whether it can come to fruition or not still is to be determined. I'm a big proponent of it, but we've got some work to do there. The basketball court, I think, you know, I would be comfortable putting forward a motion to submit an RFP for that in December, pending a couple crossing of the Ts and dotting the Is from that perspective. Maybe potentially getting some grading done at the proposed site if council so chooses. And I'd like to talk about that in December. What I'm ready to put forth in front of council tonight is a proposal that I've drawn up, and I laid it all on your desk, and I don't know if you have that. I don't know if I'm gonna read the whole thing or just the key parts, but it's basically an RFP, so I'm gonna make a motion at the end of the discussion after getting your feedback to put this out to market. But this is for the playground equipment. So the title of the RFP would be New Playground Equipment Installation at Stokesdale Town Park. And it's got some due dates on there. We'd like to see this put in, you know, by the early spring. The town of Stokesdale is requesting from vendors interested in installing playground equipment at Stokesdale Town Park. Then it has the address. The playground portion of Stokesdale Town Park is comprised of playground equipment appropriate for ages 2 to 5 years old. In addition, a swing set is included in the park site. The current play area is surrounded by a plastic border with mulch covering the ground. Please see the site plan. Approval. Issuance of contract will be contingent upon the Stokesdale Town Council approval. Process for selection of vendor. The town is asking all prospective vendors to evaluate the site and present one or more proposals for what you believe would be the most effective way to spend $95,000. Vendors may submit more than one proposal. Each proposal will be evaluated based on the following factors: overall design references, adherence to budget limits, adherence to the requirements listed in the scope of work, ability for vendor to complete work by March 31st of '23, number of type of playstations, handicap accessibility, and adherence to preferred materials of overall quality of materials. The proposed site, as T showed, is adjacent to the aforementioned playground for younger kids. The new play area will be approximately 27 feet in width, but 100 feet in length. In terms of playground, that 27 feet in width is really, that's gonna be challenging for our vendors to put together a proposal with that, because that is narrow when you look at all the fall space that is required, or the fall zone, I believe it's called, that is required in playground equipment. A scope of work, bidders should be prepare a proposal or proposals to make available to the town that gives the town the best program for the available site and budget. Remember, the selection of a vendor will not be based on lowest price. Selection will be based on the best design for the established budget, which again is that $95,000 in this. In the event the town council does not appropriate the needed funds, all bids would be canceled. Let's see. So on and so forth. Overall program, we are interested in, this is page 3, interested in providing a play experience with an active play structure for ages 5 through 12, active stations and equipment that provide challenges in upper body development, 2 slides at least 6 feet in height and climbing stairs to access the slides, 1 handicap accessible swing to be added to the existing swing set. Some play stations should be suitable for children with physical disabilities. Go on to wood fiber surface, that's mulch. We're asking for them to include the installation of mulch and the plastic barriers that surround the playground. Materials, please emphasize metal and plastic components. The town is not interested in wood components. Use of recycled plastic is encouraged. All concrete should be a minimum of 3,600 PSI unless otherwise specified by the manufacturer. And really, that's it. You know, just playground equipment is not cheap. You know, so $95,000 I think is a reasonable number for that area. And I believe a creative vendor can really present to us a good deliverable for that budget. So my motion is going to be that. Well, I want to open it up for discussion with town council.
You're not making a motion.
I'm going to, but if you have any, if you have any suggestions, yeah, I would like to at least capture that in the revision of the RFP.
Okay, I follow. The one thing that jumps out off the page to me, Mr. Foy, is the vendor being required to complete work by March 31st, 2023. Given we're going into the Christmas holiday season, you know, everything's always slow down one way or the other, and then weather becomes a factor. So that seems.
Seems aggressive?
It does, sir.
Okay. How about we modify that? What?
I was leading to my question, which, did you interface with any professional that installs this equipment and get some kind of start to finish time frame that?
We have. In fact, we could have followed the law as it's written and gone through a purchasing co-op, which is like a buying group, and that they bid out these different vendors ahead of time. And I kind of like the idea until I read the fine print. And let's just say I want to put out a bid. But yes, so these figures and this feedback were based off discussion with a potential vendor.
Well, I ask because the town, you know, there may be a vendor out there that might otherwise be interested, but they might look at that deadline and say, you know, that's just not practical.
Okay.
There's so many supply chain issues out there with companies, they can't get employees. There's just a lot of turmoil out in the marketplace right now, and that's why I mention it.
How about a deadline of the Friday before Memorial Day? I don't have the date in front of me, but that gives them 2 more months and would hopefully have something earlier.
Having it done just before school's out seems like a worthy goal.
Robbie, if this motion passes.
Your date's the 26th.
Okay, May 26th.
Yep.
All right, so I've changed that. And I don't believe it's required by state law, but we would do a sealed bid. We would request sealed bids, and we would do an opening of those, probably by staff, that can be opened and broadcasted on YouTube. I just like it that way, even though at the end of the day, the creativity of the design, as long as it falls within the $95,000, may be the determining factor.
I would prefer we open them in a council meeting, even if we have to call a special meeting, if this is a $90,000 project.
Absolutely, we can do that.
Any further discussion? Derek, you want to make your motion, or?
Yeah, I'll make a motion that the town of Stokesdale submits the bid for new playground equipment and installation at Stokesdale Town Park to request that vendors submit proposals with the assumption that or with the understanding that our budget is $95,000.
I'll second it. Any discussion? Jim? David?
Aye.
Derek?
Aye.
Jimmy?
Aye.
Tim?
Aye.
And I'm also aye. Okay. Website, you got website discussion? Tim, I believe?
No, yes, sir. I've been pondering this for some time, and what is on my mind, I'm always interested in our website being a place people can go to get answers about the town without having to call the town staff, because, town staff has their work to do, and anything, our website can be there working 24/7 for us. So with that said, there's some pages that I would like council to consider creating over time. I don't think this is any high priority item, but what I would like to see is a page for our tax history that covers the story of our sales tax distribution. A page for Stokesdale Parks and Rec, a fire department page, a frequently asked questions page, and a town administrator versus town manager page that explains those differences. It's a very confusing subject, and I'm listing these in no particular order, but that is something I think might benefit the town in the long term, and be a good communication tool. I don't know that I'm necessarily prepared to make a motion tonight, but I want the council to consider this, and maybe perhaps set this up as a goal for us to work with staff in their spare time when they didn't have priority items that they needed to address.
I think those are all good things. Just in general, our website needs to be blown up, and we need to start over. It's not the best, in my opinion. So it's a start.
If we develop each one of these pages, I would presume it would be transferable to, could be relocated within our website or relocated to an entirely new provider, website, et cetera. That wouldn't be perishable, to my mind's eye.
Tim, if I may just add a caveat to the one page on the Parks and Rec. I don't know that we need to, because their information updates very frequently based on the season and the sport. I would be more interested in seeing a kind of a community where you go to page for like certain, sports, schools, like a community resource page versus a specific Parks and Rec page. And then you can link their website back to ours, and that way we're not having to keep constantly updating, because they probably change presidents every year. They probably change I know they change sports every season, so I think we would be better served just referencing some of these particular.
You know, I'm suggesting that we, in the process, we would develop a draft that council was happy with and could vote on for each one of these pages. And I just mean a very simple thing, you know, the citizens, when they move into town, they're easily confused between the park that we have here at Town Hall and Parks and Rec, and don't readily understand those distinctions. Frequently, our staff is on the phone, you know, explaining that they're separate and, you know, how they function and how the town park functions and those sorts of things. And I certainly am all for keeping all this simple, and it's just a matter of a suggestion. I wouldn't want us to do anything that required frequent updating by staff that would be a drain on the town's resources. But just the equivalent of a sheet of paper front and back is basically what I have in my mind.
Yeah, and I agree. I just wanted to kind of incorporate some other things, a little bit outside of Parks and Rec, but that in the same line as far as just community resources. When somebody moves in, you know, where to, I don't know what comes to mind right now, but libraries, that kind of stuff, community resources, you know, that would also include sports, and maybe even some sports that are not offered by Parks and Rec, like football, for instance, or some things that are, you know, we still have Stokesdale residents that would be interested in.
Yeah,
You know, some bigger resources.
I think we could, over time, ask staff here to cover the issues that they most frequently deal with on the phone. That could go on to a frequently asked questions page, but it's just something I wanted to mention to council and see if council would be interested in pursuing.
It's a good idea. It's a real good idea. We're gonna have some help, I think, with the website.
I think Tim's focused on the content, and, you know, I think those are some good items to start.
Yeah,
Our website needs a lot of help.
Yeah, again, guys, in my mind, I'm just thinking the equivalent of one sheet of paper front and back for each one of these pages. I'm not talking about anything exhaustive or detailed, time-consuming, that sort of thing.
Okay.
Anything further? Citizens' comments? I make a motion, we get.
Wait a minute.
No, I'm sorry, yes, sir.
Yeah, my name is Dwayne Dalton. I'm from 8300 Zebedee Lane, Stokesdale. Been here all my life. My hair is gray, so it haven't been a short time. But I just want to mention about the water and you know, and spending money to for some new locations. And water come down Highway 158 from Winston-Salem, but it never did go down Anthony Road. It never did go down Happy Hill Road. And those roads been there all my life. And I think we need to consider, if we're gonna spend some money, giving those people an opportunity to have town water.
Have the citizens out there discussed this? I mean, are they asking for this aside from yourself?
Oh, it's been mentioned several times. I mean, when the water was coming through, it was expected to go down those roads. But for some reason or other, I don't know why it did not.
Okay, well, help me understand this a little bit. For those that don't have our water system, they have a well.
Right.
Now, if I remember the way this contamination is laid out, I don't think you're in what was the contaminated area. So, again, for the sake of argument, you're proposing that we put water down there and that the residents are willing to pay for the water because, you know, it's not a free item.
Right.
So, I mean.
Yeah, I'm just saying that they should, I mean, you may have to send out a form just to see if everybody's interested, but they were from the beginning.
And y'all just got overlooked somehow.
Don't ask me why.
Hey, do you know how many people signed up? Cause you remember, I know you was there.
Exactly right.
$200, I think you paid $200. We did
Exactly,
it.
yeah, 250.
How many?
I don't know how many people
don't know?
signed up. Right.
Yeah.
But I just,
This is kind of new what we're doing because I think they added some pipe counts before I got here, but mainly everything that anything else had been done, but had been done by developers when they was laying pipe. Now we got this, but that'd be something to look into because if there's a lot of people, you know.
oh yeah, I mean, like I said, it's people that's all down Happy Hill Road and, of course, Anthony Road's a little short, but still, I mean, there's people that live down that road, and I'm sure they would love to have.
Now, you couldn't go so far because I think the part that's, when it turns into dirt down there, that's actually not even a state road, is it? It's some kind of.
That's
deal.
another issue that I'm gonna try to look into, and maybe that's where, the council can help as well. I don't know why, Anthony Road is a 1/10 of a mile or 1/4 of a mile dirt road. It's solid, pavement from 158 down to halfway, and then it picks up on about a 1/4 mile on the other side of Anthony Road, and it's paved. It's about like I say, about a 1/4 mile or less, and it's dirt.
Yeah, it's got something to do with, Zane, you know Zane Anthony, don't you?
Yeah,
Zane can probably tell you what it is. It's something about there's really no right of way there. They go through there, but the state don't own the right of way. From what I understand, I could be wrong, but Zane would be able to tell you. But there's a reason behind that, or I'm sure it would already been paid.
yeah, I never understand because the state do what they want to do. I mean, they come and take your land, so I can't understand not being no right of way.
Yeah, well, I know what you're saying.
I mean,
I know exactly what you're saying.
And if you put in for the, on the GPS, coming from Kernersville down 150, they gonna send you down Anthony Road.
Yeah.
And you're gonna get on that dirt road and figure that you done run into a wilderness somewhere.
Well, I think beat you to death too.
Yeah, and I mean, and I don't know why it's not paved, and I'm sure, well, I'm not sure, I'm 99%, at least 1% that I'm not, that it's being paid, taxes is being paid on as a paved road. It's something I mean, I think town Stokesdale should
Bobby,
look.
yes, sir. Would you call DOT and ask about Anthony Road for us? That's, I'm curious too.
I mean, yeah, I mean, it don't make no sense. It would help traffic.
Yeah.
I mean, it would save on gas. It would help our fire department in a lot of cases.
Oh, yeah. Well, you know that we don't pave roads, but.
Oh, yeah, I
we
know.
can-
I
we
didn't
can try to-
understand that,
We can
but
try to find
I
out.
would've been said
Now-
something.
Now I'm curious. I know I was told one time what the reason was, but I don't remember what it was.
Yeah, like the only reason I didn't pay no attention, they give an explanation, but I mean, I'm a little bit smarter than that.
Yeah,
The state would do what they want to do.
yeah.
And I don't know no such thing. They took some of my land, they didn't ask me about it.
You know, I had something happen.
I went to pay tax on it, I found out they took it. So this thing about the right of way, and as much money as we pay in taxes, they can just take the right of way and make a right of way.
If you like everybody else, your taxes probably went way up.
You better know it.
I did, so I know what you're talking about.
Exactly right. I mean, and so it's just one of those things. I mean, it's little stuff, but it's the little stuff to make big stuff bad.
Yeah.
And that's what we have to deal with. And so I just wanted to mention that because it's, you know, I look at the people on Coldwater Road, and they just got on Coldwater Road in the last 5 years, except maybe 2 houses. And they gonna get running water, or city water, town water. But then people been on Happy Hill Road for 50 years, and if they want it, they can't get it because it don't run that way.
Yeah, that's a good point. It really is. It really is.
I just wanted to point that out.
Yep.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that, Mr. Dalton. I don't know when, but I do believe sometime in the near future, and granted, it's only about 2,200 feet, but there will be about 2,200 feet run down Happy Hill Road. But that won't cover all of Stokesdale and Happy Hill Road.
Right.
I do acknowledge that. But
He's on, you're talking about Anthony Road.
Well, both of them, but Anthony Road as well, yeah.
Yeah, the developer's running down, Happy Hill Road quite a, good ways up there. I guess almost to Mark King's up there. up that way. I'm not sure it's going quite that far, but right in that area. But, yeah, I know what you're saying there. Yeah, that's
Alright.
what we ought to talk about, guys. I mean,
like I say, when we spending taxpayers' money,
yep. Y'all taxpayers too.
there's a taxpayer on Anthony Road.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with you.
But ain't but one, it's still a taxpayer.
Yeah.
And you know, it's less than 6,000 people in Stokesdale. And I look at each one of you representing 1,200 people. Each one of you representing 1,200 people. So somebody is representing somebody on Anthony Road. Somebody's representing somebody on Happy Hill Road, Highway 158 West. And that's the way, I don't know if y'all look at it that way, but that's who you represent. And when you're speaking, you should be speaking for 1,200 people.
Now,
What 1,200 people want.
where they're going down, where they're talking about, we've had a bunch of water meters, but where we're talking about going down, Coldwater Road and then 65, there's a couple reasons we're doing that, or thinking about doing it. We ain't voted to do it yet, just to get qualification.
Right.
But it's one, for the water quality, to make a loop, and then two, in case something happens to that main line, we can cut that off, and we've still
Gotcha.
got water going into Stokesdale. So that is one of the reasons, we're not doing it to actually, it's gonna be a side note to it, but we're not doing it to run water to anybody. We're doing it for those are the main purposes we're doing that. But we'll, we're gonna have to start thinking about some of the stuff you're saying too. So, but Robbie will find out about that road and get an answer. You can be here next month.
Oh, yeah, well, if the Lord's will, I will be, but
I'm curious.
that would really be, would be interesting, because I heard some stuff which I don't even want to repeat, but it don't make no sense. I just put it through that way.
Yeah.
And they always say that the grease the wheel, the squeaky wheel want to get the grease. And, I might squeak a little bit sometime. If you don't say nothing, nobody ain't gonna do nothing.
Yeah. Hey.
Unfortunately, that's the way it is.
Yeah. Yeah. How you know how far it is down to the pavement, where the pavement stops there? You know exactly how
I
far?
don't, I had said that I was gonna measure all that and I was gonna come and bring this issue up.
Yeah.
But when I heard about this wall, that's how I'm standing up here now.
Yeah.
And so that just come up. But no, I'm not exactly sure how, I've been going all my life, but I really don't know how far it is.
Have y'all got any water problems down there or anything? You got any-
None that I know of,
Okay.
None that I know of. I don't live on Anthony Road. I know about Anthony Road. I have some relatives on Anthony Road.
Right.
But I don't know of no water issues.
Right.
Yeah, I haven't heard anybody complain about water issues. Other than the fact that they wish they had city water.
You think there'd be some people down there that would hook up if it was line then?
Yeah. I do. Of course, I wish, there's probably other roads here in Stokesdale that same way. I don't,
Yeah, there's a lot of roads that we just don't have water down.
Right.
They hit the main roads and then the developers, that's the whole thing, they put it in for the contamination. And,
right,
to get water in, and then the developers,
yeah,
we really hadn't been, branching out. If a developer develops something down there and they wanna run the water, they usually pay for it. This has just happened that we just got money, and so we're trying to do the greatest thing that we can with it.
right,
But,
right. And that's good. That's good, really.
but somebody down there, you got that, Zane's got, 100 and some acres, and there sooner or later, somebody will do something with that. And,
Oh, yeah,
if they do RS 30, they're pretty much gonna have to run a water line.
right,
And, then that's how Stokesdale has expanded now for years, We just happened to get, I don't know if you call it lucky or not, but we got this money.
it's definitely a blessing for Stokesdale, that's for sure.
Well, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
but thank you, that's.
Thank you, Mr. Dalton.
Thank you.
Now, do I need to make a motion?
We do need to make a motion.
Okay.
Should we have council comments first?
Anybody else gonna make a comment?
You want to do the council comments first, then we can close this thing out?
Is that what you're saying, council comments?
No,
Okay, I'm sorry.
I wanted to make sure we didn't skip anybody out there.
We're gonna go into closed session, so,
Why don't we have council comments and then we'll make
That'll
a
be
motion
fine.
to do that?
that'll be fun. Council comments? Jim?
I'd just like to thank everybody for coming tonight. The water improvements is very tedious. I personally am in favor of the, water line coming down Hall River, but I also understand that right now we're looking at around $4.4 million, and that water line itself is probably around $6 million to do that one line. Looking at other things that the town needs, and that's the agitator or the stirrer to keep the water quality. So, I just want to let the citizens know that we have not lost sight of that secondary source, but right now, we're just trying to prioritize what we can get done with the money that we have in the bank. And then we've also discussed looking at future grants to try to finish out that secondary source when we can do it. But it's $6 million is a lot of money to undertake to run a quarter mile in our jurisdiction. But we are still, we still have that in our sights. We just got to figure out how we can best pay for it and hopefully maybe, gain some partnerships on the way, to help pay for that. So just want to let everybody know that, we have not lost sight of that project. It's just, we're just trying to kind of look at it from a different direction right now, but we need to get some of these other smaller projects done in the meantime. So, but I appreciate everybody coming out and being part of the process.
Yep.
Derek?
I'd also like to thank the citizens that came and joined us tonight and stayed with us the whole time. I want to give a shout out to T for a great presentation and all the great things he's done with the Town Park Committee. Also, want to recognize Pal Shelton Jr. and he's got a group of folks that have helped him, I believe, for many years, put together a Veterans Day program. Tomorrow's program, because of the rain, will be at Town Hall at 2 p.m. Randy Southard, Todd Harmon, Barbara Marshall, and many others have helped put this together. And just talking to Pal and seeing his passion about it, it's great to see citizens put together, this kind of ceremony and just remember all the veterans out there. And this is, so acknowledge the veterans.
Jimmy?
Yeah, I'd like to thank everybody for coming tonight and council for, we have a pretty good conversation. We don't get heated anymore. It's enjoyable to be up here, but I'd like to thank the veterans. They put their lives on the line by signing up. They don't ever know where they're going or what they're gonna do. Enables us to have a free government and freedom. And, they do a great job and tomorrow's a day for them, and everybody ought to thank them, and I definitely thank them.
Tim?
Yes, sir. I'd like to thank our 8 citizens that are still present, if I counted correctly. It's almost 10 o'clock, so I appreciate y'all's dedication being here. And I would like to tell anyone that's listening, council is aware of the 2 kids that were recently killed in tragic accidents on Hall River Road. And if some opportunity presents itself to take definitive, meaningful action that will in some way improve the situation there, I'm sure we will. But it's tough when you see any kid injured in an accident, and it's doubly so when they don't survive it. I just cannot imagine outliving a child. That's a special kind of grief that none of us want to face. I'd also like to point out that the current plan with the town council, wherever we are installing water mains, there's been no discussion to offer free taps to anyone. And so there's no cheap way to get water. It's not cheap to drill a well, and it's not cheap to connect to the town's water system. our current tap fees are listed on the town's fee schedule that's available from the clerks up front at the desk. And so if someone has a water main that's installed in front of their house, they would still have to pay this tap fee. And they would still have to pay the plumber of their choice to make the connection from the meter to their house. And under some circumstances, there's also requirements that have to be addressed with the county and perhaps the state regarding abandoning the well that they're currently using in favor of the new connection with the Stokesdale Town Water. And so, to my mind's eye, if there's a group of neighbors somewhere on any road in Stokesdale that feel like they have a pressing need for town water because of some circumstance they have where their wells are low or perhaps going dry, now would be the time to let the Stokesdale Town Council know. And I would imagine that we would want to see some commitment from that group of people, some way, somehow, to buy the taps and actually hook on to our water system. In places, we have water mains installed that are of significant length that nobody's ever connected to, that we hadn't sold a drop of water off of. And so we're always kind of excited when we see somebody add a tap in one of these places that will allow us to utilize that water so we're not unnecessarily flushing water. And it's just something that we have to consider. If we put a line in that extends somewhere and it basically dead ends, it makes it harder for us to maintain the town's water quality versus having a loop, like the loop we're speaking about from Coldwater to NC 65 and into Stokesdale. So, that is a consideration as well, but the council certainly wants to hear from folks if they have an idea, have a need. Our contact information's up on the town's website, and anyone can always call town hall and speak to any staff member and get information to us. But anyway, thank y'all again for attending.
Thank you all. I do also want to recognize the veterans. We have a great deal to be thankful for with the service that you have provided. I wish I could be here tomorrow, but I'm not going to be able to be here. I've got a couple of, let me do a couple of announcements. The town of Stokesdale Town Planning Board will hold a meeting on Thursday, November the 17th at 7 p.m. inside the Town Hall chambers. That's, of course, located here. The other one is the Town Hall Council. We'll have our regular meeting on Thursday, December the 8th at 7 p.m. And of course, it will be here. Again, thank you all for coming. I make a motion that we go into closed session.
Mr. Mayor, we need to make a motion per General Statute 143-318-11 to go into closed session for permitted purposes to consult with an attorney and also to discuss acquisition of real property. That's just, you got to do it.
Clarify.
Yeah,
Okay, gotcha.
sorry.
Is there a second?
Jim Rigsby, second.
Jim?
Aye.
Derek?
Aye.
Jimmy?
Aye.
Tim?
Aye.
Jimmy, where are you going? Where are you going?
I'm staying here.
You better watch him, he'll go home.
We got to go in closed session.
Hey, Derek, your request for proposals,
No,
what was did you modify the date on there, March 31st?
Not sure what it is.
May 26th.
okay, thank you, ma'am.
And then, since this exceeds 90,000, we're gonna have to follow the formal bidding procedure on this, so we just need to make sure we do that. And then you highlighted this competitive bid as an exception, is that, I don't know anything about that process, I've never been involved with whoever highlighted that. That may, yeah.
I'm ready. I'm gonna medicate myself.
so sick.
Yeah. So we'll just need to do that. And we're not required to get approval from that agency, this group, because playground equipment is there. So. The procurement manual, we don't have to use their forms and be under their supervision because there's an exception for playground equipment.
Because this is $95,000, this is the process. Hey, you need to do this and this, you need to advertise. I mean,
Yeah,
in my opinion, advertising things in the newspaper, such as
See.
this, even though
playground equipment structures, that's an exemption, it's been set out as an exemption for that. So it's good.
I just,
I've done some through Eden and stuff, so I'm familiar, but it's been a little while.
Which is not allowed, but he's not doing sports anymore, so, but.
Yeah. Poor guy.
That's Colin.
That's okay though. That's okay.
Hadn't seen you in ages.
I know, I've done that on purpose. I love it.
Wow, you don't come back up here anymore.
I'm busy.
So is she, so am I.
Well, she's also busy because of me. I am. Her husband keeps me very busy.
What'd you do to your finger? Who'd you slap upside the head?
There's quite a few. I did get the best news today that the coach that has been on my side got fired today.
Oh.
So now my last year there is gonna be glorious.
Yeah.
Yeah, just something to keep in mind. We may propose
He's
that
also racist.
we all joined
He
into
said
that.
the most
Part
inappropriate
to
thing to
the-
a female student. And that's what did it.
Especially those grand-
Well,
One of my cheerleaders.
we need that. 'Cause
I
I'm
was
on the
like, I
concession
think
stand. I've
you
been
need to
concession
report
stand.
that, because what do we do?
I'm sorry.
Do I need to be in there?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I'll double,
Which is
you want
something
double check
that, or
there.
we could,
Yeah, I just wanna make sure they're not talking
think
about
about,
money.
just be honest, I mean.
Hold on, let me just make sure, yeah, hold on.
Location,
Do they
you
need
may
me?
need to
Do they
put a
need me?
bathroom down in your concessions.
Are you supposed to be in there?
Y'all need me for
I don't want it going there.
Jimmy, you gotta go in there.
I think I know what it's about, but I'm not
You
sure.
can go home. I'll just go ahead and go.
Good seeing you.
No, I will unsign my name. Y'all can just go
Yes.
ahead and go.
Nice to meet you. He does.
I didn't know where
I
you.
know, oh my gosh, all these people here with their favorite.
Sorry, just tell me to move.
Oh, well, but seriously, they did, when I was at state, they had just put in a rubber surface in those halls. So you pull up the wood and put in a rubber surface, and it probably saved 8 times. So.
I just like we
but
say,
now we got
the
wood.
maintenance, we can put something down and then it never has to be messed with again. That pays for itself in the long run.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And so,
And these are interlocking tiles. You look through this stuff, I'm sure. And so if you do have to maintain it,
Y'all have a good night. Okay, bye.
it's worth it in the long run, it really is.
They don't even,
Yay, I know, that's celebration right there. Yeah, cause they'll be in there a while.
nobody talking about you.
Yay,
Not yet, not yet.
I'm good.
Oh my gosh.
Are you waiting on?
Well, I drove tonight too, because I had to work. I was at work and then.
That's why I tried to put on his coat and leave.
Did you quit? You done already?
Quit,
Quit.
yeah, quit, right there.
I was gonna make
Yeah,
a
I worked
reference,
at
but
the
I
state.
that wasn't me, it was Dan.
And then I
We can call that your, Madam Mayor.
And I wasn't gonna work at all anymore. I don't have to work at the school, but I wasn't gonna work at the shop, but I can't pass up, do fillers and haircut.
oh, yeah.
I'm not going in till 3:30, so.
Well, like I say, when you don't.
Going to the beach.
Crazy.
Thing to me about me though.
I don't care if they do, to be honest with you. I do. I know, it is what it is.
That's where I'm going.
I do, and I want to do the same as I did last year. And I was searching in my pocketbook, I thought I had check on it.
I'm checking on people that,
I'll just bring it up and give it free.
yeah, that's all. And they've got an application out there too,
Oh, okay,
on the table.
okay.
Well, they did.
It's okay. Chris will take care of it.
supposed to give them a check, she'll take, that's what I did last year. Just handed them the money.
Was it for the parade?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I intended to bring some.
I'll just give her a check, she can handle it, she'll know what it is.
She'll make it just feel like that.
I've already been shopping for it.
Have you?
Well, because I need to buy more snow, because I didn't buy enough last year. I kind of knew that, but, and then the thing for Santa Claus to throw from the sleigh. Last year I waited too late and had to get the rubber duckies, which I didn't like, because they're a little bit harder. So I've got two things in my cart for us to vote on whenever. There's like little snowballs with faces, and the other thing is the squishy stuff like Christmas tree, candy
Yeah.
cane.
I still have the Santa Clauses that went out one year.
Yep,
The
that
strips.
was my first year.
Yeah,
helping out.
I still have them sitting on my desk at my office. It gets used often.
Yep.
So you can get some more of them.
Yeah.
Give me a Grinch. I want a Grinch.
Yeah, they have them let's just in a coal, in a lump of coal. And I
Oh,
thought
that's
if we
cool.
had a Grinch, that would be the perfect thing for them to throw
Yep.
out.
Yep.
Well, no, they should have, to me, if they
Oh, yeah,
did,
so
they should have the
That's
cheap,
property,
usually the cheapest.
in their liability
They
insurance.
probably should mention it maybe in considering,
If they
See something there,
when is our next meeting?
they'll find out. It's 2 days before the parade.
Yeah, the 8th.
I didn't mean to.
It did.
And they didn't even say Happy Thanksgiving, everybody. Because I think everybody forgets Thanksgiving's like 2 weeks from now.
Yeah,
Yeah, 2 weeks from
because
tonight.
it was
it'll be
the, wasn't it the November meeting last year I came and presented to get the money for the parade since we didn't get to do anything? And then what we asked for, Derek, I wanted me to ask for like, what, 3,000, they wanted to keep all 5,000
Was that
We
last
did
year?
that last year.
for the parade?
Yeah, we did that, yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
We did that last
I'm
year.
already trying to spend
We
the
got
money.
Yeah, we got that done last.
That's the fun part for me.
I didn't think about it, or I would have sent Derek a text and said, don't forget to mention the parade.
Well, he did mention it, he just mentioned the date, that's
Yeah,
all.
he did.
He mention it tonight?
Yeah.
Twice.
Oh, that's why we put something up for somebody then.
He did, he mentioned it in the beginning, with the event committee, under for whatever, CMD,
okay,
whatever it
yeah.
was, he mentioned
No,
it.
I was getting my stuff together.
Yeah, you were ready, because you were next, up, but
I always catch myself doing it, I'm like, oh my gosh.
that's the one thing I definitely gotta do, I've gotta order the things for Santa, that's right. But I think, I sent Derek an email, and I guess he's gonna send it, maybe forward it to you, so you guys can pick which one, because I got 2 options for you guys to pick, $10 difference between them. And I'm like, I'm indifferent to it, just pick one. Just pick, you can go as cheap as, I don't care. Just pick it. It's tough because I got a cheerleader that is competing in Greensboro on the day of the parade. And last year, she competed like 2 weeks before the parade. And we all went to that, supported her and watched. Now it's like, oh my gosh, I don't know what to do. And then I feel bad, I'm like, I really want to go watch her, and most of
What's
them
the
do.
time?
Hers is in the morning. But me, it's an all-day event for me. I'm setting up the Santa float, decorating it, and then I go in and I decorate the car that the cheerleaders walk behind. It's an all-day thing for me.
Have you seen your application yet?
The what?
Have you sent your application yet
No,
for the parade? What are you waiting?
just said it. I just said it. Just said why. We're not confirmed that we're doing it, because I got a cheerleader that's competing.
Well, you have to make a decision. You have to arrange your priorities.
Oh, no, I know, I'm letting them decide, like, do y'all wanna do the parade, or you wanna go to her?
You're asking who to decide.
It's the cheer squad, it's
Uh-huh.
their decision, I don't care.
Uh-huh.
But I would really like to go watch it too, but I can't, cause that's like the intense stuff, but. Anyway, it's my last year with them, I'm letting them decide. They all usually wanna do the parade, cause I tell them it's just nothing but fun, there's no stress.
It's gonna be good this year.
Oh, I know, yeah, with all the food trucks, oh my gosh, I will be hitting that up.
Who is doing that, by the way? Who is arranging that stuff? Because I haven't.
I was assuming Derek, but that's why we haven't had a meeting yet, this
Is
is,
Nikki doing it?
who?
Purple Wagon?
That's a good question, I think, God, he mentioned something to me, and I don't remember.
And it's a month away.
Yeah, I know.
Uh-huh.
He didn't mention anything about food trucks.
It's exactly a month from today.
Yeah, that's, yeah.
Well, then when did he tell me food trucks? Was that,
Well, he
Well,
said
we're saying-
vendors and food trucks, and he's gonna get the Highland musicians
Oh, yeah,
and
that's
stuff,
easy.
and they were great. I saw the video that somebody recorded
they are
year before
awesome.
last, and they were awesome.
Oh, they are so awesome.
they're gonna be at church, I think, right?
Weren't they in front of the fire station last year? See, I'm never over there on that side, are you over there?
I'm right at where I work at Hotheads, that's where I go to park the cars right there, and
So
right
you're
there,
down too far, but
I get right there at my office.
yeah, I know.
Okay,
Well,
so
you're-
cold, I can rain a lot.
Did you look out and see? Cause I thought, I could have sworn that they were at the fire station because normally Crossroads, praise band sits up there and they didn't last year. I thought they were at the fire station and then they disassembled and
I
then got
didn't
in
make
the
the
parade.
parade last year.
You did? Oh, I did.
No, I did not.
I was there, didn't you?
Yeah, I was there the year,
Yeah,
not the year before, the year before that, pre-COVID, right before
No,
COVID.
I got diagnosed with COVID 3 days after the parade.
Yeah, but cause the last time I was
Look,
there,
I
I
got
got
that
all
out of the
those
way.
pictures. I got all those pictures of you
gotten
that
over
year.
COVID by the time Paul got here. You did? Yeah.
Thanksgiving.
It rained last year during the morning, and it cleared off just in time for the parade.
Yeah,
And
the
got
West was
stuck.
great.
Nate yelled
out there acting like he was
That's why we didn't come, cause
Security.
I think they were calling for rain all day.
Yeah, it stopped before. It was perfect. The weather was great. The
Yeah.
weather was
Now,
wonderful.
I knew it was a reason, some reason I didn't, but that
Yeah.
was the first one I've missed and,
Jeez.
well,
Okay.
besides the COVID,
Cause
the drive-through.
actually, we
I
need to
didn't
come
do
up
that
here
one.
and meet with Derek and Chris, cause she does a lot for us. She usually contacts the Santa. She does a lot for us. So we need to come up and meet with her and him and get it.
She has a lot for everybody.
I had sent him an email
Well,
2 weeks ago telling him what needs to be done right now. Like, this is what really needs to get done
Well,
now.
he gave you, well, but that was the meeting that you couldn't come to. We've got a list, but I didn't bring it with me. He gave us a list of all, who's doing what.
Okay.
But, I mean, you've got some assignments.
Oh, I'm sure I do. I'm always in charge of decorating the Santa
I
float.
think that's,
That is always on my agenda. I'm like, okay.
all right, I'm going home to see if, let's see.
I'm going home and get something to eat. I'm hungry.
I will not be watching that.
Well, I just want to see how about we lose it. I did go to he's taking us in engineering school.
We'll get there. We'll figure it out. Cause I told him that in November is a good time to have the guys that put the sleigh together last year, put it together this year.
Jimmy,
But that, Jimmy,
Yeah.
Tim.
They did it awesome. They did
but
awesome.
if you take it out, where are you gonna keep it?
No, they stored it right back there.
Oh, did they?
They moved that table somewhere else and it sets
Oh,
right
you
back
mean
there.
here?
Yeah, they set it right back there and then they set, the tree inside it. The Christmas tree.
But not in this room, you're talking about outside.
No.
In this room. That table, these chairs are, yeah, they're
Well,
like,
that's all the voting stuff.
where that table is right there with the plant, is where the sled was.
Yeah.
Well, how do they get in and out?
They put it together in here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How do you get it out to get in the parade?
They take it out
Through
these
these
doors
double
and then
doors?
other double doors.
Okay,
And they load it onto the flatbed truck.
okay. Who feeds the rain?
Not me. I don't even attach them. The guys attach the sleigh to the truck and the reindeer, and then they take it over to the business center, and that's where me and my food is decorated. Yeah, so, it starts early for me, that day starts so early. I'm not a morning person, so, wow. I don't blame you. I want to go home, drink my chocolate, and go to bed. Actually, no, I'm gonna drink my Theraflu, that's what I'm gonna drink. Theraflu. I'm almost over it, I'm not contagious anymore.
No, I'm not,
I-
she makes me
I'll
sick,
sound
I'll
like-
get her.
I will sound like crap for like 3 weeks before I did that, I'll like have no more symptoms, but I'll still sound like this. Oh gosh, allergies too, that's the worst. We'll see, I don't know. See. Hopefully you'll get out of here soon.
Well, I drove separate, but I won't leave August way,
Did you buy separate?
especially since Jimmy saw the old fox out of the house.
Yeah, she drove separate.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I was gonna say, I can take you out.
No, I got my car out there and he's got his truck. Thank you, though.
All right. Good night, Lisa.
Good night.
Night, y'all be careful.
You too.
Bye, Miss Karen. Bye.
No, man, I gotta go. I gotta go here.
Hey.
Get on this recap, I pay that bill, I can't keep doing bailing her out all the time.
He'll turn it off.
Things flip smash me.
Hey, I was raised up with somebody that worked for the jail, but I don't mind nobody that works working for the jail.
Yeah, because I won't even be here.
I get
So I'll need a Zoom setup that I can.
Mortgage comes out.
Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
30 years in the
Well,
Back into.
did the same.
Oh,
I'll make a motion that we reconvene in open session.
second. Okay. Jimmy? Jim?
Aye.
Derek?
Am I?
Jimmy?
Aye.
Timmy?
Aye.
Aye.
I'll make a motion that we adjourn.
I second it. Jim?
Aye.
Derek?
Aye.
Jimmy? Jimmy?
Aye.
And I'm aye. Thank you all very much. Appreciate it.
And that was our November 10th, 2000.